Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 404.
404 file not found, like a web page error.
I know, and in 10 more, we'll be in the 414,
That's
our official area code here.
That's the special one. I'm not waiting for 920.
We're 715.
715.
Up in northern Wisconsin.
262 we passed a while ago.
Yeah, so, was it Luda? Is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah. He knows what the 414, I think is how he said it more so. He's got podcasts in different area codes. We'll go with that. Welcome, everyone. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, joined alongside Johnny V here for, another night of podcast.
Yeah. Another night.
We are obviously the big conversation taking place this last week in terms of tournament play, Skyline Classic. We are post the Skyline Classic, so that's what we'll be recapping today. I don't know if there was anything else. Of course, the OTB on the Elite Series took place. We'll recap, talk a little bit about that, and somewhere, I believe, I'll read you some information and some details and updates. Last week, we had Sarah Nicholson on the show talking about the women's team event that she put together, and I believe I have a few details and results and updates from there. Heck, I'm just going to give that to you right away because she did send it to me. So thank you, Sarah. She said that Ace Run got some sweet frickin' coverage, I think was the exact quote there. We'll go with that. So look for that on Ace Run Productions, good friends of the show, for the Throw Pink Women's Team Championship, driven by Innova. And, Johnny, you'd never guess the name. The Tennessee Tornadoes took it down.
The Tennessee Tornadoes.
Yes, and that included Donna Barr, almost called her Bear, Donna Barr, Amy Cantor, Cher Kitchings, and Amber Meese. So congratulations. Of course, it looked and sounded like a really good time. I can only assume that it was. Showing 30 teams listed here, and the information can be found. In fact, I'm going to try and link it for you guys. 30 teams listed for the Throw Pink Women's Team Championship, driven by Innova. So congratulations to all the competitors. I was just telling Johnny just before we got started, it sounded like a really fun event when Sarah talked about it last week, and it seems like it would be a great thing to pick up in your local area or region or whatever and see if you could run with something of that nature. We've, of course, gained so many women's events and women's-only tournaments in the last few years, but this one had such a unique perspective on it, so it's pretty cool to see.
A couple people are noting the difference in light quality. And so for those of you, we'll give you a quick behind the scenes tour. We're probably a little washed out right now. I've got these key lights down, maybe a little, they're down pretty far, but the webcam, we moved from a high quality 8 to 10-year-old JVC that was smashed because it had been dropped by my wife and myself at one point when we were filming a wedding. And I went to Best Buy today, and I bought just a 4K quality camera. And actually, I think the quality of the picture looks okay. It's just that we're a little bit blown out as far as the white balance goes. So
Yeah, Johnny working on a little of those.
I'll mess around with it. I'll try to dial it in a little bit.
We need all the help we can get. I don't know if you know
I don't
this.
need to be as...
We need to hire another crew to come in and fix.
As Daniel says,
look.
we don't need to be any whiter than we are.
Yes, we're about as vanilla as they get. So hopefully we're going to see some improved picture quality. It says, you're too clear. I like a little blurry. Well, I wonder how blurry you guys were at the event this weekend. Anyway, we're not going to go there, Sarah. So that was for what we just said with Sarah in that event. I want to touch on, I'm going to bring up, in fact, a few details from it. I'd like to touch a little bit on this weekend. I had the pleasure, along with an entire team and slew of other people, to host the 2022 Skyline Classic presented by Discraft. And some people did make note. I was told later that they're like, wait, you just put this event on the schedule a few weeks ago. How in the world did you have custom stamped discs that were available? And that is solely due to our friends over at Discraft. So thank you so much to Bob and the rest of the crew at Discraft. So I want to quickly recap a few details for you. If you're going to wait for the final round interview, or I'm sorry, the final round coverage to come out, then close your ears just for 10 seconds. I don't know. I'm going to try and get it up much quicker this year. But taking it down is the brother of fellow media personality of Brian Earhart. Instead, it was his brother, Thomas Earhart, took it down. Very impressive play this weekend by Thomas. It was much closer during the first round. Then he decided to take care of business and take it away during the second round. Averaged somewhere around 10-20, 10-22 golf, something in that neighborhood. And then there was a huge tie for second, so I'll read them all off. Shawn Butler, Zach Finwall, William Rockcastle, and Scotty Too Hottie Bertard, all tying for second, 5 strokes behind what the effort was from Thomas Earhart. So congratulations. Thank you guys so much for coming out and playing. Serena Giles was one of only 2 women that competed in FPO, so she took it down. And then Zach Kobus took down Masters, with Michael Holton destroying everyone in advanced. So pretty impressive. I'll read some more champions from Sunday. Maddie Haley, Jason Barnier, and John Dorn all taking it down on Sunday's play. And if I can find it quickly, I'd like to give you guys, I'll give you guys Saturday's action. What can I say? I'm a little biased here. Let me see if I can find it, though. Sorry, one sec. Jacob Klug took down intermediate. Melanie Sanfilippo went uncontested in intermediate women. Angel Ortiz took down rec. Katie Missiayan won in rec women. Max Jacobs in novice, and Caitlin Borgwart took down novice women. So thank you to everyone that came out, and I have to quickly say Nick and Juliana Schick, Ryan Pilcher, Tom, Big Daddy Jenkins, Tom McManus, the Pastry Dye Boys, all of those people, Shawn Butler, Ryan Pilcher, I think I just said, Dustin Skorpinski, all of those guys are really who made the event happen. So thank you, in conjunction with all the sponsors and Discraft. So lots of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Saturday's weather, intermittent rain throughout the day. Not exactly lovely and beautiful and pleasant. Everybody fought through it very well.
Which is funny.
Sunday was gorgeous.
Here we didn't have any rain up here.
I know, and it was only about 45 minutes. It's about an hour from where we are to where the tournament took place, an hour south, closer to the Illinois border. And when it was all said and done, we had rain on Saturday, but not Sunday. So thank you to everyone that was part of it this weekend. Really appreciate it. All right. So apparently there was a larger scale tournament than the Skyline Classic this weekend, Johnny. And I think, you had front row seat to it, kind of, sort of.
Well, I mean, front row seat. I didn't have to pay for a spectator ticket, but I get to see all the cameras.
Okay.
So that's nice. Yeah, correct. The OTB Open, we saw a new course on the Disc Golf Pro Tour at a familiar park. We saw Stockton play last year, but the course was redesigned. Only, I think, maybe 3 or 4 existing holes from last year, maybe 5. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But ultimately, this came down to, it was on a ball golf course, but it wasn't played like a ball golf course. It had a lot of low ceiling shots. Leonard Muse redesigned it. He designed it last year as well. It was a bomber's course. There's no way around it. You were advantaged by being able to throw far. And more so, I think, than some of the other courses on tour, maybe short of LVC. But ultimately, it played all right. I think if we're talking about the course for a few minutes, I think that the course lacked a little personality. And that could just be that it's the first year, it was different than last year. So this is a lot of times we're seeing the first things. It just felt like you watch these players throw, and then you knew they were just going to have to throw hard again. I'm going to reserve complete judgment until we see this course again and again. Maybe it'll grow on me a little bit. There are some great holes out there. I think it's 9, 10, 11 is really good. I like hole 1, the starting hole. Hole 18 is a pretty solid hole. 17's good. it's just there's a few spots in there that the holes just meld together. You can't you could drop somebody there a lot like LVC, I think, and then you just wouldn't know where on the course you were, which, that's whatever. But it sounded like the players enjoyed it. It played well for them, and we got for the FPO, we got a returning champion in Paige Pierce. Paige comes out. She won last year's OTB Open. She shoots 11 under par for the event. Final round, went in with a 9-stroke lead. And throughout 16 holes, gave it away. Gave that lead away. Natalie Ryan came out guns a-blazing. She had 3 birdies to start out with, then took a par and another birdie. And according to her post-round interview, she said that was the point after the first 3 birdies that she felt she had a chance to catch Paige, which says a lot considering you're going up against probably the greatest woman of all time. And Natalie got on a roll, 11 through 15, 5 in a row to catch Paige. They both parred 16. Paige basically didn't get a birdie from after hole 4. She took 2 bogeys. And then, unfortunately, Natalie came up on hole 17. And that is 17 and 18 are 2 of the defining holes on this course.
So I have to ask, again, I come from a very weird position in that I had no idea what happened throughout the weekend, largely because I was running a tournament with 231 people of our own. And so I didn't get a chance to consume. I have a real hard time getting into, as much as I make post-production video, I sometimes have a hard time getting into it, especially when I'm caught up.
Of course.
But my question would be, and I know you're also a different perspective because you're pressing buttons and you're not 100% in tune with the actual play and the intricate details, but what in the world is the huge difference between a course record-setting 10 under by Paige on Saturday, round 2, versus an even par on Sunday? Is there anything off the top of your head that seemed obvious or apparent to you?
She didn't hit a circle 2 putt.
Okay.
And granted, she barely hit one all weekend, I think. She just wasn't getting, as they say, she wasn't getting to the green. She couldn't quite get them close. She was either putting herself in like a slightly awkward position to get there, or she just wasn't quite on her game. And I don't know if that is a result of going into that round with a 9-stroke lead, that maybe she took her foot off the gas, even though the day before she said somehow words come back to bite you. She said she's going to play that round like the final round at Worlds. And she did, unfortunately, but it ended a little bit differently. So Paige said she was going to come out and still kind of put that accelerator on, but she just couldn't. Whether she was truly trying or not, I don't know, but she just could not get the birdies. And it makes sense on a course like this that can be very difficult. These are long birdies, and there's a reason why when you look at the top players, 3 of the 4 of them are probably some of our furthest throwing women in Paige, Natalie, and Ella. Julianna just she had a great final round and played very conservative and smart. Didn't take a lot of OB strokes, none in the final round. And that is how she kind of kept herself up there. Right? Is that right? No, that can't be right. I'm looking at.
She didn't make any C1X.
Oh yeah,
because they were all
tap-ins
inside
yeah.
tap-ins.
I was I was trying to find out what her putting percentage was. It says 0% C1X, and I was like, that can't be. But it honestly it can, because if she missed 3 of them inside the circle, that then became tap-ins, and the other ones were all tap-ins for birdie. So ultimately, she really had, and she only hit 1 outside of the circle of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that she had the opportunity. And Julianna's not known as a phenomenal putter these days. She's had her issues, and I think she's kind of working through them still and getting better. But Julianna just did it by getting close. She pinned. I think she got hole 1 all 3 days, which is a feat in and of itself, because that is a it's a dog leg right, but it's only probably like, if you're looking at, I don't know, it's not a straight dog leg. It's probably at like a 45-degree angle, and it's difficult because you have to get under some trees and around them, but she played it to perfection. So ultimately, Paige Pierce does come out with the victory because Natalie Ryan, as we said, on hole 17, just it bit her as it can. There's water on that. She got a little bit more aggressive than she needed to. Honestly, Natalie probably should have just played it a little safer on her second throw, and she went out of bounds. She went for the green, and that could be lack of experience. That could be confidence, as she had just rattled off 5 straight birdies. You feel like the world's going your way. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, just keep riding that wave. I mean, she clearly was making a charge and then some.
Of course. So I don't know what the decision making was. I thought that I thought that particular decision, in hindsight, of course, poor decision. She hits that island and puts the pressure on Paige. That looks like a phenomenal decision.
Yeah.
But as we know, that's not how the story played out. And then on hole 18, she went OB on her. She went OB twice on 18. I believe once was on her drive, or I don't remember if it was her second shot, and then when she approached the green as well. But at that point, Paige basically had it locked up. So that was more trying to push than anything else. Not that Paige could not have gone OB on 18 as well and maybe given 1 or 2 back, but it just didn't feel like the momentum was in Natalie's favor at that point.
Wow. So I feel like this, because of the charge that Natalie had, the conversation around Paige and not feeling like she was fully prepared, the length of the course. There's so many different storylines that came out of this weekend, ranging from maybe even everything I just said, and then you throw in there some meme creation done on the MPO side.
We'll get to that.
People talking about what they feel is or isn't an appropriate looking or traveling or accepted trophy. I mean, there's just a lot of conversations. One of them that I felt wildly has then gone under talked about is JK's finish. Julianna Korver, third place, beating so many of the top players in the world. She's clearly put herself there with she's in a rating area where you see her being competitive in that 948, 950 range, which is right there with so many of the other players, but we haven't seen her with these top podium finishes. And I think back to a year ago, it was at this event exactly a year ago at the OTB Open, which felt like her really big return and her coming out party of like, hey, I'm getting back on the tour. I remember walking along with that card specifically, and I really enjoyed it. And now, again, maybe just because there are so many storylines, it feels like that has been somewhat of a quiet, line as well. But anyway, I think it's phenomenal. Hats off to her, solid performance, and you could say that of course of all of our competitors. But this feels like this has definitely got to be the best performance that we've seen from JK, and I'll see if I can back that up with any actual stats.
Fairly certain, and it was really funny because today the Disc Golf Pro Tour put out I think it was an Instagram and Twitter and Facebook post, more or less talking about the MP40 women who finished well: Jen Allen, Owen Scoggins, and Julianna Korver. And
sure.
And Julianna's like, yeah, and one of them qualifies for MP50, which is her. So, because she qualifies for MP50.
Mm-hmm.
So
you guys can do that math.
Yeah. And so ultimately, JK at, this sounds so offensive, at her age, still competing with everybody else. Is she the Johnny McRae of the FPO field?
I mean, and let me kind of, I don't want to say eat my words, let me back up a little. She has performed and won a number of events this year, but on the biggest stage, and she's been absent from it due to her significant other and all those other reasons. So I'm not second guessing any of that. I mean, she racked up literally 4 consecutive wins in 4 consecutive tournaments where she played in B tiers in the California area or in the California region. However, at the largest stage that we've seen her on in the last year or two, this is her best performance in Open on this big of a stage. That's what I'm trying to spit out, and it's very impressive. I mean, last year she won the Memorial in Pro Masters Women's. She won the US WDGC in Pro Masters Women's. Those are all phenomenal accomplishments, but this is the best that we've seen her finish at an elite series.
And Sean Mercy says that this was JK's biggest payout ever, and it's not even close.
Yeah, and it's third place. That's insane.
Yeah, from the 5-time world champion.
So it says something about where she's come from and then where we're going, most certainly. So, yes.
Real quick, we'll talk about some of the other women in the field. We already talked about Paige, Natalie, and then Julianna. Fourth place was Ella Hansen. Tied with fourth was Alexis Mondahano, who we got to see play with her sister, Valerie Mondahano. And unfortunately, Valerie did not finish out the tournament very well. Alexis, for a long time, we were in the control room. We were a little upset at hole 9 that she birdied because she had the clean scorecard going. She'd gone 8 for 8 for pars, and then she wrecked it with her birdie.
Well, at least it's the good wrecking.
But it's the good wrecking, correct. Sixth place, Missy Gannon continues to shoot well. Seventh place, in one of those MP40s, Owen Scoggins continues.
FP40s, yeah.
Or FP40, sorry. Yes, another FP40. Owen Scoggin continues to shoot well. Jen Allen as well, tied for 7th. In 9th place, Katrina Allen, tied with Holland Handley. So those are your top 10 FPO competitors at the OTB Open. And all around a very solid event. A lot of fun, good competition, new course, all that other fun stuff.
Yeah. And over on the MPO side, obviously quite the story in having Simon Lizotte come out and take care of business the way he did. And I'm going to bust him out a little. It sounds like he's out on the West. We know he's out in the...
he's in Colorado, I believe, this weekend.
Either Colorado or Lake Tahoe, I think, for a couple days working on some stuff,
sure.
I believe, with Jomez. But it was even just a few days ago. He hadn't booked his ticket. When I was visiting him last week, he hadn't yet booked his ticket. And now, granted, him and I had then a travel conversation about typically, yes, tickets go up as it gets closer, but sometimes with the craziness of travel these days, sometimes a ticket will go down at the last minute. But he had been watching them for a long time, and he hadn't yet booked his ticket. And there was the slightest sliver of thought in my head where I was like, is he going to maybe just decide not to go? Like, just for whatever reason, house, family, kid, blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe he's just going to ultimately... Clearly, that was not on his agenda, and he ultimately got his ticket booked. I feel like he had relatively short warm-up time in terms of practice, but it didn't appear to matter.
No, it didn't. As we said, this is and more so for the men, this is a bomber's course. You can tell by your top finishers. Simon Lizotte, while he used to be known as like the far-throwing guy, there are a lot of guys now that are keeping up with him, and Simon, I think, has dialed it back just a little bit, but he can still put those discs very far away from him. And Simon had a few really awesome putts. I can think of 3 of them off the top of my head that were some of those kind of maybe give it a chance to go in because you don't want to go OB past the basket, and all 3 of them went in for him. So, when things are going your way, they're going your way. And he had like a 100 and some odd foot throw in for Eagle
on day one, right?
On day one, that as he said, it was a bad throw that the basket got in the way because he was trying to lay it up. He knew if he missed it, he said he'd be outside the circle. So anyway, Simon Lizotte takes first place, 20 under par for the event, shooting an 8 under that final round. As well, shooting an 8 under that final round, Kelvin Heimberg, another. This course of all courses, I think, suits Kelvin very well because there are a lot of low, hard distance throws, which I believe is like his specialty. He's the kind of guy. He's not the one that's out there like Simon. When Simon throws a bomb, it's usually a big flex shot, or at least that's what we've seen in the past. Kelvin has a very direct, hard throw, straight where he's aiming, and this course really set up well for him. Third place, guy that last year made a name for himself out here, Aaron Gossage. nephew, I think, or great nephew of Goose Gossage, former MLB pitcher, and you could, that clearly runs in the family with the way you can see him throw those forehands because Gossage can crush them. He shot an 8 under as well. Anthony Barella comes out with a 4 under par in 4th place on that final round, 15 under for the event. And we saw Anthony, unfortunately, roll his ankle, I believe it was on the 3rd hole on a jump putt. And Jen Allen was there throughout the round, kind of taking care of it. They put some kinesiology tape on it, some KT tape or whatever. They were spraying it with, I think it was nitrogen to keep the swelling down.
Oh, I would have just used WD-40.
Well, that's why you're not Jen Allen.
What does she know?
I know, she's only a physical therapist.
Whatever.
So unfortunately, you could tell that it was inhibiting him. He was throwing forehands because he couldn't put a lot of weight on one of his ankles. He was throwing forehands in places where it's not the ideal shot. Everyone else is throwing backhands. He would walk up and throw a forehand. I don't think, based on the way Simon was playing, I don't think Anthony would have caught him, but it would have definitely been a closer battle had Anthony been able to perform at peak performance. You could see his ankle afterwards was, as someone said, about the size of a grapefruit. So hopefully he's okay, and it's like a minor sprain, but shout out to Anthony for kind of willing himself through that. Speaking of willing yourself through something, Ricky Wysocki taking 5th place. What an amazing performance by Ricky. His knee did not look good. He was limping the entire event, but he was on coverage first round. You could see him really, it was tough for him to walk. I thought after the 3rd hole, I'm like, dude, wrap it up. Get out. Just don't hurt yourself. You don't want to, with an injury like that where you can't put a lot of weight on your knee, you don't want to mess up another ankle or knee because your weight shift is wrong and you're trying to compensate. So all I kept thinking is like, maybe this is just go get it taken care of. But Ricky, no, Ricky doesn't think that way. Ricky thinks, I'm playing pretty well, so I'm going to take 5th.
Yeah, which
Amazing.
is incredible. Yeah, as you were saying. Did you feel like other parts of his game were apparently suffering or not? Like when you looked at his putting or anything like that?
Early on, yeah.
Yeah.
Early on, you could see, he missed, I think, a 12-footer. He airballed it.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was a little awkward.
Wasn't it on this very podcast? No.
His putting was, I think, a little off, especially the first round and maybe even the second a little bit, because he even said he had to change up his entire putting style because he couldn't push off and he couldn't put weight on it. So I think he suffered a little bit there, but ultimately was able to finish up strong, shooting at 8 under par that final round. The same as Simon, the same as Kelvin, the same as Gossage is... honestly, it's one of those games or one of those rounds that people will look back on in the future and go, wow, like that was relatively nice. I think I read today he's having his knee drained.
Oh, okay. That sounds
gross.
Really?
So
okay.
Yes, so he's having his knee drained today, and he's hoping that he's got 2 weeks to recover before Portland. So hopefully we wish you nothing but the best, Ricky. 5th place, Chandler Fry, shooting a 7 under par, and Chandler Fry, I believe, is that the only gentleman who did not have an OB stroke on the weekend?
That's what I think we ultimately heard.
So he shot a 7 under final round, passing up a bunch of players to get to 14th. He jumped up 6 spots. 7th place, Drew Gibson, giving us the highlight of the weekend, doing his best Nico impression of pretending to kick a basket, but unfortunately, as we all know, Nico a little more graceful than Drew Gibson. Drew Gibson fell on his ass. and a meme was born.
So dare I okay.
Ask away, Terry.
Well, no, I was only going to say, again, and this comes out of legitimate ignorance, he was not on the lead card when it happened. Was he on a chase card?
He was
or
on the
card?
I believe he was on the chase card.
Okay.
And so this is really funny. In behind the scenes control room action here. Little tech talk. We are watching at that exact moment. We're watching Matty O throw over one of the water shots. Not quite make it. And Matty O is on the ground doing a Matty O thing. One of the things that we tell our cameramen, after Matty throws, don't leave him. He's going to give you something. He's going to give you a first down. He's going to give you some
kind
sort
of reaction.
Reaction animated. That's what Matty does. And so we actually go back and replay to watch Matty-O's reaction, and we're talking to Gary, who's doing replay, and Gary's like, no, I've got something that's better. And none of us had seen it other than Gary in replay. Even Mo, who usually watches all the cameras, somehow missed it. And we're like, what's better than that Matty-O reaction? We play it. I watch it live like everybody else because Gary O just puts it in the thing, and all I see is Drew lining up for a putt. And I'm like, all right, what did you hit and roll like 50 feet? It was like 2 minutes of the control room laughing, belly laughing, like to the point where we're all like, okay, we need to calm down. We need to. We replayed it. We played it in slow motion. The only thing we didn't do was play it backwards, which I think would have been great.
Sure.
And poor Drew. I mean, shot well, but guess what? When you do something like that, you're asking for it.
And the fact that he's okay. If he,
of course,
if there's some kind of serious injury or something as a result of it, totally different story, of course. But the fact that he was perfectly fine, other than a little bit of a bruised ego, yes, then it is appropriate enough to laugh about it. It's not like he fell off a bridge and broke his ankle or anything silly like that.
He popped right up. And like I said, and a meme was born. Very funny. If you haven't seen it, there's a great meme out there of him doing that and then suddenly flying through space, and it's well worth your time.
And without disappointment, you can also, and I've said this for a few years now, follow Silas Schultz on Instagram, because he also has put together a pretty good version of it as well. Silas, pretty good with some of his impressions.
Silas is classic.
Yes, he does. He does some pretty good work out there. So make sure you go out and you find his version of it as well.
Okay, I will do that right after the show. 8th place, Joel Freeman, continuing to have his very solid season. He's always appears to be like 5 to 10. So congratulations, Joel, having a really good season, almost a little under the radar because he's not quite hitting that top 5, but he's never really falling out of the top 10, it feels like. So,
yeah.
So Joel Freeman, a very, very good season so far. 9th place, a tie with Austin Hannum and Gannon Burr. Austin, this course just seemed to work for him for whatever reason. He's not known as he's a pretty decent. He's got decent distance, but not elite distance like some of these guys. But Austin also does have, he's, and a lot of these guys, he's very proficient forehand and backhand.
Yeah.
And I think that helped him out quite a bit. And I think he probably had a good putting weekend, which is what it also takes. So congratulations to Austin, who shot, very well. He actually had a slightly below average, I'll say, final round where he only shot a 3 under when a lot of the other guys, when you're kind of shooting for a 5 to 6, is really where everyone really wanted to end up. But still was able to, he fell 3 spots in the final round, but still a top 10 finish. And as we know, Gannon Burr, he's the highlight of the season. He's the story of the season. He's 17 now. The 17-year-old kid coming out and still playing lights out golf.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, after the performance he has at a Masters Cup, then you come back and still finish top 10. Mm-hmm. Has he raised his own expectations to a level of like, oh man, I had an off weekend, when obviously so many people like Simon and others have said a top 10 performance is doing solid work out there. However, you have to wonder where his new expectations have landed these days.
It's unfortunate, and I don't know if anyone did this. Ask him at the beginning of the season, what were your expectations for this season? Did you go in hoping to take a couple top 20s?
Sure.
And versus your expectation now. Is your expectation top 10 or bust?
Exactly.
At this point,
as his floor raised, so to speak.
Yeah.
In terms of where he,
or did he come into the season going, no, I got this. I can take top 10 every week.
Sure.
I don't know what his preseason thought mentality was. So
either way, pretty impressive. And then because he's obviously one of the best in the world, seemed like a less than stellar performance out of Paul McBeth this weekend. As I'm just finding him, I scrolling down to a tie for 19th.
There was quite the talk about whether he was going to take top 20. I don't believe he's ever gone 2 in a row without being in top 20 or something like that. There's some silly stat there, but he was able to squeeze into the top 20. I don't know what his thing is. I don't know what his problem was this weekend. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see him much.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up, and I am truly naive to all of this as I'm just pulling up some of the stats for the weekend and seeing 8 OBs, which I'm sure he'd tell you is, that's clearly 8 more than Chandler, but 8 OB strokes, gain putting 4.51 strokes, that was 15th. That was his best stat. Or strokes gained, C1X 3.69. So it just looks like he was not killing it in any given category. Obviously, 68 was the opening round, and then followed up by a 61 and a 62. Again, you're not necessarily concerning yourself about who else is in 19th, because that might be a career high finish for someone finishing that position. But when you're talking about one of the top-rated players in the world, and to see a little bit on the struggle bus for the last couple of weekends, fair or not,
I've said this
conversation.
I've said this before, and I hope this puts a small chip on his shoulder. Paul McBeth is not an elite distance player, and I think that's what this course required.
Okay,
Paul McBeth has phenomenal form. He is a good distance thrower. He is not elite. He does not. These guys are out driving him by 20, 30, and 40 feet now. And that could be one of the reasons he couldn't, quote unquote, keep up. Maybe it's not. Maybe he looks at it a different way. That could be true. But, he just doesn't have. He doesn't have Calvin power. He doesn't have Simon power. He doesn't have. I don't know if. I don't know. I don't think he has Gannon Burr power.
Okay.
McBeth plays a different game. He plays more of a touch game than a lot of these guys, and I don't think that's what necessarily favored this course. And if it's true, and I didn't see a lot of him on camera, he has been withholding that forehand for a while because of an injury. I don't know if he did this weekend, but if that's the case, there were a few shots that it was a better shot to throw a forehand. And I don't know if maybe that's part of it as well. We'll see.
I don't know. Dustin, who, recaps things and talks on Disc Golf Network and does some work with Gatekeeper, is disagreeing with you on the board, Johnny. Do we want to just ban him now? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to ban him. He says he has 550. Sure, he has 550 in a wide open field, no doubt. When was the last time you saw Paul McBeth throw 550? In a low ceiling power throw. It's just not his style. That's not what Paul does.
Because you're comparing it to what we see out of a Kelvin, or an Eagle, or a Simon, or someone else that's able to do that.
It's able to throw a low ceiling power shot, like a real, a very, very strong, fast throw. And that's just not Paul's game. And it's, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that these guys that are getting him by, again, 20, 30, 50 feet, that adds up. Okay. And it won't hurt on most holes, but there are some holes that you're going to be in a better position if you can do that.
Yeah, and I stated this earlier. I had the pleasure of being on the league night, on Disc Golf Network earlier tonight. My first time ever being there. Thank you to those guys. I was there with Matt and Jamie. And one thing I do recall is doing the math. And this weekend's 11,727 feet averaged out to 651.5 feet. And I'll say it here again. Think about going out to your course tomorrow, whether it's league, whether it's for fun, and you step onto your course, wherever you play, and think about 18 holes in a row that are 651 feet. Some people just kind of grimace thinking about how their arm would hurt, and how unpleasant or maybe not fun that would be for you. That's a lot of throwing and a lot of golf and a lot of distance to cover. That's for sure. I think that's incredible. I remember getting ready for the 2011 Worlds, and at the time, the average hole length, I think I added up all the courses there, the average hole length was like 432 feet or 468 feet, something in that neighborhood. I remember thinking whatever the average hole length was longer than what I could typically throw myself, and being relatively discouraged. I'll admit that. And now thinking about this Elite Series event on this one particular course with an average hole length of 651 feet. Pretty crazy. All right. Speaking of this weekend, it was a clearly a last moment thing. You may have even seen it unfold in the chat in the last few minutes. If we can work it out, we may even have one of the tournament directors from this weekend in Shawn Mercy, often referred to as one of the Shawns, because Shawn Jack and Shawn Mercy take on the tournament directing for this event, along with a number of other things. So it sounds like if we can get him all fired up, we might be welcoming him to the show. And in other similar news, we unfortunately heard just before the show, not only did we have this terrible shooting that took place in Texas earlier today, which I was just made aware of myself. I didn't have the news on, so of course, thinking about everyone, just unfathomable to think about somebody in a elementary school, and which is terrible. Johnny and I both have young kids, and it's just terrible effing everywhere, if you really just want to put it that way. Also, catching wind just before the show started that it sounds as if Simon's uncle has passed away. His uncle who lives in Canada, Peter. And so, understandably,
condolences to the Lizotte family.
Yeah.
You know, Peter is apparently and I don't know Peter very well. I have heard the name. He is a groundbreaker up in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So he is very influential up there. So, yeah,
certainly tragic day. Also heartbreaking anytime we're losing friends of our disc golf family and our Frisbee family, especially such a legend of the game. But so. Hugs, thoughts, love, big hugs, as we always used to say here at Smashbox. And it seems as if we might be ready to go. I think he can hear me, if I can get a nod. It sounds like he can hear me. That means he probably will have his audio working. Coming in on no notice, from our Disc Baron Digital Green Room, one of the Shawn Mercy. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
I'm doing good. Still catching up on some rest. But...
I was just going to say, how are you, like, at all awake or upright? Talk to us about, first of all, who's crazy enough? This is a legitimate question for so many people. Who and why are people crazy enough to try and put on an Elite Series event? Like, where's that drive come from to even host one?
It's a really good question. Especially looking back on it right now, feeling appropriately worn out for what we put into this event. Honestly, like for me, I think it's once I agree to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do my best to make sure it's the best that it can be. Working with Shawn Jack, I think we both have a very similar set of standards for what we think an event should be. And of course, like, it's taken a few years, I think, to build up to what we were able to achieve this year. But I think we kind of hitched onto it in 2018, and we're really at this point just seeing it through.
So many people have talked, and maybe that's why I have a little FOMO and a little frustration that I wasn't involved this year. So many people have talked, including Paige Pierce, our champion, about a new era and about the aura, the ambiance, the experience, about being out there at this event, at this park, and what you guys put together. So what's either changed or what are we missing that everybody is raving about so much? And don't be humble or shy about it. Tell us, why is it so great?
I mean, I think it's a lot of what I just said, but at the same time, really, I feel like this year things all just synced up for us really well. Having the property at Swenson really unlocked, I think, the potential for an incredible spectator experience. We were able to surface it last year, but not really tap into it. We only had 40% of the area, and really couldn't plan for spectators, or just didn't seem to make sense because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to have spectators until
Mm.
like 3 weeks before the event, I think. And then we really just did the best that we could given those circumstances. But actually, one of the major reasons we redesigned the course was for the spectator experience, and not just for this year, but for the next, 3 to 5 years. And I think I saw that vision this weekend realized, although at a smaller scale than what we expect to see going forward.
Yeah, you could really see the open areas for spectators and a few places that were unique for spectators that I didn't expect to see. Normally you see the spectators kind of hanging out around the players or around the green. You'd see somebody throw and their disc would land halfway or three-quarters up the fairway, and then there was a set of stands. And I was like, what the? Oh, that's a great place to be sitting because you get probably a couple different holes in that area. And I was very impressed with the number of spectators that we saw out there, the quality of the spectators, and just the locations of the spectators.
Yeah, the Disc Golf Pro Tour actually was on site, or part of their operations team made it to Swenson. It'll be 2 Wednesdays ago tomorrow, or 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So it was a few days before our amateur event, which was the weekend before the Pro Tour event. And they were able to start setting up the assets actually prior to the amateur event. So we had the truss up on 14. We had a bunch of the feather banners and walls and stuff up prior to our amateur event, which I think gave them a head start, obviously, on setting up the entire course. And I also think they have a bigger and more capable team this year. And so getting the head start plus the extra people, we were thinking about crowd control on Monday and had ropes out and basically done by the end of day Tuesday. I mean, we kept adding, but the majority of it was done by like Tuesday evening. And I think we did a really good job of providing great access for general admission while also differentiating between that access and what the VIP passes were able to get. And I don't know did you guys catch the elevated platform on hole 5-6?
Don't know if I remember seeing that.
It was basically like a little stage. So we had like a concession area to the right of, if you're the player, to the right of the tee pad on 6.
Okay.
We call that Party Peninsula or Party Island.
Oh, yes. Our drone showed it a few times.
Yeah.
It looked phenomenal.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of people over there with tables and canopies, food and beverage, and then on the left side of the players' tee pad was a platform so that VIP spectators could see over this mound that would basically be blocking view if you were standing in that location otherwise. So that was one of the things that we added on the course this year. We added a few sets of bleachers on hole 18, which we did not have last year. We had bleachers on 1. And yeah, I think just all told, I think we were able to really not only like set up the infrastructure to have a good spectator experience and provide great viewing, but also just the planning and knowing how to move people around the property like during the rounds. I think that all that together really led to what people were able to gain access to.
Yeah, as I say, I do feel like this is, from what we've seen so far, one of the best spectator experiences on the tour. And it, I'm trying to think of other events that have come close, and I can't think of any. It looked like this one was set up as well as we've ever seen.
That's what I'm hearing. I honestly haven't been to a ton of other big events. Been to GMC many times and Worlds in 2018. But otherwise, most of the big Elite Series events have been either SFO or now OTB Open.
Now,
yeah, that's the feedback we received, including from Jeff Jacqua, which was really a pretty big compliment.
Yeah, for sure, because he's not only running one of the biggest events, but also now is on site for so many of them. So clearly it has great perspective. So, as you said, a very worthy compliment. What is, maybe explain to everyone, what is the relationship? How does it come about with Swenson, and what does that mean planning-wise, cost, reservation-wise, some of those things that maybe aren't obvious or apparent to anyone that's not in those intricate planning stages.
Right. So we basically rent the golf course property from Swenson LLC, which is owned by Kemper Sports, which is a big golf management company, I guess. But we negotiate directly with Swenson. Joe Smith is the GM, and that connection was made by Craig Gustafson or Crash, and the Delta Windjammers
Okay.
in 2020, actually late 2020. Since then, though, we've been working directly with him. This year, we are going to end up paying $20,000, which is a pretty good deal for about 150 acres, is my understanding of how much property there is there. And then in terms of like, planning the event and building the course, so on and so forth, it's both Shawn, Jack, and I, basically communicating with Joe Smith. And then for the course build, Joe actually just put me in touch with his superintendent. His name's Caesar. And so for anything property related, if we wanted to but they're actually amazing to work with. They understand where we're at and sort of scaling this event. They were, very impressed with what we did last year. And Joe actually kind of pushed us to take over the entire property this year, which, kind of unlocked the potential to do the redesign that we did, and set up for kind of scaling for the next 3 to 5 years. But yeah, it's I expect the costs to definitely go up for next year. He's pretty transparent with us in terms of what his revenue numbers are and what they need to be, because he has to report up to corporate essentially. And the way that he frames it is he wants to make sure that there's not too big of a gap, because he doesn't want to answer a bunch of questions, and then once corporate gets more involved, maybe it becomes more complicated. So,
well, and that was going to be. It always seems like our perfect crossroad is finding a golf course that isn't entirely run down where it's too much work, but also one that's not incredibly busy so that it costs too much to go rent it from them for a weekend or a week or a few different weeks. And finding like that perfect mix and intersection can be tough to do. And so, I mean, in some ways you almost wish like, hey, I wish, your golf numbers would fall a little bit, because you might be easier to negotiate with.
it's true.
And it feels like, but is that, so I guess two parts to this question is, if somebody went out there today or tomorrow or next week, they're not seeing disc golf in any capacity, are they? Like there's
Well, not on the course that we used.
Okay.
But there's a permanent 18-hole disc golf course that's located on basically concurrent with the 9-hole executive golf course. So there's actually there's 3 total golf courses, I guess, on the property. There's an 18-hole golf course, there's a 9-hole executive, and then there's an 18 disc golf course on that same side of the property. So you may see some disc golf there, but otherwise, we were out there yesterday and today breaking down. Golfers started to trickle back in, and it was pretty incredible. Even yesterday evening at 5 p.m., pretty much everything was off the course, which I was pleasantly surprised about. And it definitely, it felt kind of surreal, looking around, and as like the sun gets low, that it's so beautiful out there, and it was just so peaceful. And compared to like, after Simon dropped in his final putt on Sunday to that moment yesterday, it was just I don't know, it was pretty nuts.
And so I guess then maybe that answers the question, though. The golf and their operation there is doing just fine. Is that a good way to put it, or are they
Yeah,
struggling in any way?
No, I mean, honestly, we were out there probably 7 weekends leading up to the event, putting the tee box foundations in. So Saturday and Sunday, and except for Mother's Day, and days that they had other events going on, they had full tee sheets. So they were
Okay.
very busy. We actually had to coordinate and plan like when we were going to be working on certain tee boxes for safety, because he wasn't going to turn golfers away while we were trying to put those foundations in.
Yeah, finding those places to coexist and the times to do it, and just a whole nother set of challenges that largely is not realized by our disc golf community. And
Right.
way back in the day, I've run temporary courses on ball golf courses. I think I've done it at 3 different places, and there's all the struggles, and that was at a tiny fraction of what you guys were putting on. So I know of the challenges that are presented when you're doing that kind of thing. Now, you mentioned a 3 to 5 year plan. You guys foresee yourself with this event and this venue for the foreseeable future. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay.
I mean, definitely next year, but the future is very hard to predict. So, and we're not signing any contracts, at least with the venue.
Okay.
But
Well,
I mean, it's hard to imagine right now, coming out of this past weekend, and imagining that we would be moving anywhere in the near term, meaning the next, at least 3 years, let's say.
Yeah, and this isn't I'm not out to air dirty laundry or dig up dirt or anything of that nature, but maybe explain why you guys did make a transition from what we saw over at the other
Glen Eagles,
right? I keep thinking
Glen
that,
Eagles.
and Glen DeVere, those are all on the tour, but Glen Eagles had disc golf. We were there for at least one iteration of the Pro Tour, and what kind of
2 years.
2 years? Yeah, I was there for one. It happened too. What prompted that change, and how did that come about?
So in September of 2020, Shawn and I started talking about the 2021 event, and given the state of or where we were at in the Bay Area and in general with COVID, we thought that we needed a plan B in case the city wasn't allowing events again, because we were planning to do it at Glen Eagles in 2020. We had a contract, we were ready to go, and then COVID hit, and so we canceled that. The owner of that course was very understanding of the situation. Thankfully, we weren't invested in it, meaning we didn't pay him any money for that canceled event. It was hard to imagine that we would be leaving that property because the course is amazing. The 2 events that we had there in 2018 and 2019 were amazing, but we did start talking about it. We thought about pretty much any course in Northern California, within driving distance essentially of where we live in the Bay Area. And there wasn't any clear, obvious alternative. We actually thought quite a bit about a course up in Willits, California, Mendocino County, called Brook Trails. They've held quite a few disc golf tournaments up there, but there's no cell coverage. And we knew that would be a major issue. So we were kind of had a plan B. Maybe we could make Brook Trails work. Maybe we could make one of the courses up in Tahoe work. And then around that time, I'd say early October, Shawn Jack was talking to Danny Corbett from OTB and Craig Gustafson, actually. And next thing we knew, he was like sitting down for lunch with, I think, the GM of the golf course in Swenson. And they started talking about what it would look like and what it would cost and all of these things. And then we also, I think at that same lunch, Visit Stockton, which is basically the tourism bureau for Stockton, said that they would be interested in supporting the event and, financially, and helping run the gate, for example. And so Shawn called me on the way back from Stockton. I think it was the next day, and said, "Hey, I think we need to talk about possibly moving the event to Stockton." And I think we had talked about it very briefly in September when we were thinking about other venues, but didn't think too seriously about it, just because, I mean, neither of us knew the property that well, but our perception was that it wasn't super interesting from a disc golf course design perspective. But at that point, we started thinking about it pretty hard, and I'm not sure when, but it happened pretty quickly. Within a couple weeks, actually, we had come to an agreement to move the event.
Now, which I think about how all of these interesting advancements kind of develop, and sometimes the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's location. Everything at one time or another has to all come together. What do you say to someone that says, we're going to another ball golf course, we're going to wide open areas, it's not hilly enough, it doesn't have the right terrain, whatever, a number or a slew of the things that get said? What's your response to someone that says something like that?
I think that's a fair criticism of some disc golf courses on golf courses, and it really depends on the property, obviously, to an extent, but really, I think primarily on the approach of the design for the course. But really, it's the event, right? Like, we're doing events, and the tournament is obviously core and central to it, the competition. So the course needs to be very challenging and interesting to players. But I think, I would just ask that people really take a look at our caddy book. If you want to see a disc golf course on a golf course, that if you didn't know the golf fairways were there, you wouldn't know there was a golf course there. Like, we literally bisected three golf fairways on hole 5
Yeah.
alone.
That's the
I don't think
1,000
there was
footer.
I don't think there was a single hole that we used the golf fairway as our fairway. Hole 1 a little bit, but we're shooting diagonally across it and then going into the bushes, you know? So I think, when you have someone like Leonard Muse, Whirlwind Disc Sports, as your head designer, and listening to you and what you're looking for, not only again from a course perspective, but from an event, I think a really good course that not only serves the competition very well, the players like, but also allows us to do what we did this past weekend with the spectators.
And just curious, maybe you can or can't share, approximately how many spectators did we have this weekend?
I would share, honestly, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think if I had to take a guess on Sunday, our maximum all in, including players and caddies, probably approached 1,000.
Awesome.
We sold quite a few tickets. I don't have those numbers, but I think, if we had 1,000 on Friday, 800 of those, maybe 750 were paying to spectate. And then on Sunday, maybe 20% less, and Friday, maybe 30% less than that.
Yeah, and clearly in talking to Shawn Jack throughout the years, he, to me, has always been that voice that has wanted to push us forward in so many other professional ways in which we're seeing and drawing parallels to other sports, other venues, other experiences that can be had. And I don't want to say that's obviously not just the salesman in him, but he clearly has just a bigger scope and a bigger picture that disc golf, has been trying to model or is trying to find. And I think he's helping lead us down that path in that direction. What was it like having, obviously Kevin Jones was there doing his set, and then having the music on site? It seems like that's such I don't want to say a corner piece, but that clearly is a significant part of what so many people feel like was special about this weekend.
Yeah, it was actually ended up being great. I think it was a bit of a smaller turnout than the Pro Tour was hoping, but also they anticipated, given how late the announcement was made, and the ability to communicate through to the community. But I know Paige Pierce had a really good time out there, and some of the other players. We also had a guts demonstration going on at the same time for the first hour, I would say. So I was hanging out over there. on the other side of the course, but eventually made it over and saw the last few songs of the band, and they were fantastic. I think this is really what the sport is looking to do at the highest level. It's not just a disc golf competition; it's an event, and it's providing entertainment not only in the form of a disc golf competition, but games on the side. We had like a little 3-hole spectator course that people could play, and at night, at least one of the nights, we have music. And I think this has been really Jeff Spring's vision. That part of it, Sean Jack obviously drives a lot of what our vision has been and what we have brought to the table. But as far as the music goes, I think I would say Jeff was the big driver behind getting that going. And we've all seen his vision realized at GMC for the past like 7, 8, 9 years at this point. And I think what's neat about bringing the music on site on the same grounds as the tournament is that people can literally finish watching the golf and then walk 200 yards and start watching music.
Yeah, and pulling it all together, and Jeff, as he's helping getting it all executed and realizing that vision and having it, even prior to him seeing, ultimately Steve Dodge and the whole vision of
Sure.
everything that was, part of a disc golf pro tour event. As a lot of people or some people know, there were games that got literally hauled around the country, maybe not so efficiently, but there were games that were hauled around the country that were set up at all the disc golf pro tour events, and concessions and all of that stuff was all part of this Frisbee festival that really made up, and there were a lot of challenges with it and some inefficiencies at first, but we're slowly and surely getting to that ultimate vision. Somewhere I've got a PowerPoint that Steve Dodge sent me of the original, Disc Golf Pro Tour and what it was all to encompass. And I feel like it's getting closer and closer to that every single weekend. And it's incredible.
Yeah, it is absolutely incredible. And absolutely agree also that Steve he laid out the vision. And, I think it took longer than he was hoping, obviously. But at this point, yeah, I agree. We're really just kind of following what people, I think, conceptualized many years ago. And finally now, like, I think we have the pieces in place to actually do what we did last weekend.
So I know you're very active within the San Francisco community, California, and everywhere else. How do you follow up, the all the highs that come with running an event of this scale and this magnitude, running it so successfully? Is it all about planning for the next year? Are you thinking about the next B tier you're helping with? Like where does it go from here? For what's on your plate?
Well, I think for at least the next few weeks, I'll be taking a little bit of a breather. I am also the president of the San Francisco Disc Golf Club, and I've been neglecting my duties for a couple months now. We do have a general meeting that I need to make sure is planned for like late June, but otherwise I'm gonna, kind of pull back a little bit from what's been going on the last 3 months. I've put in. It's been pretty nuts, actually. I don't know if you guys heard about how much work those tee pads were, but we started in early March.
Yeah, I think they even had a like a small asset piece about the creation of them that we played at one point during the broadcast. It looked like a lot of work, and the tee pads looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I think they turned out the way we were hoping. But yeah, we decided in late February really to at least look into installing a foundation instead of just laying the turf on top of the grass or the ground like we did last year. And we considered it because those tees last year were quite a bit of work to get them to be acceptable, in my opinion. The players didn't complain too much. But I think we also got a bit of, leeway because it is a temporary course, right? We're only setting it up for a couple weekends and then tearing it all down. But we did do a lot of work, a lot of shovel work and rake work, and the tees were still just okay. And given, the level of event this is, I believe that we can't have anything that's just okay. Everything needs to be at least good, and we want everything to be, as close to perfect as possible. And so we decided late February we were going to install 32 foundations. And so we basically built frames out of pressure treated wood, 6x13 for the men and 6x11 for the women. And we sunk them in the ground, like with the grade. So whatever the terrain was around there, we basically matched it so that the golf course mowers could go over them,
Yep.
and we would not have to pull them back out. And so we're actually able to leave 31 of those foundations in, which we probably wouldn't have done it if we couldn't do that, because the amount of time, material that it would take to get foundations that you have to pull out at the end just wouldn't have made sense. So again, going back to like our relationship with the golf course and the superintendent, the guy who has to maintain the entire golf course, being open to the idea, and then talking it through with me out there on the course, me making clear that I understood what his concerns were, and then we did a few of them. We showed him, and he's like, all right, that looks good. I can deal with this. And so we went on. But all told, it was like 1,300 person hours over the course of like 7 weeks. Most of it was on the weekends. I basically spent all my weekends in Stockton from the beginning of March until the tournament, and then the last 2 weekends for the tournaments. And we had like 30 something people come out at least once. And I think we probably had 8 to 10 really core contributors who gave us, 50 plus hours each. And like 6 gave us like well over 100 hours. The Thumpters from Stockton and John Olivia were absolutely huge. We wouldn't have been able to do it without the support that we got locally. But yeah, it was a big project. Just really happy that we were able to finish in time.
So that's all fine and dandy, but let's trash you about your trophy.
Oh shit!
I mean,
Yeah.
and I say that tongue in cheek. I mean, and maybe the timing is just there. Like, we talk about the thousands of man hours and the work that goes into the event, the insane effort, the dedication, the hour and a half drive alone in good traffic, for you to get from one city to another to put in weekend after weekend. How does it, are you surprised, and does it make your skin crawl or frustrate you or not when then somebody immediately wants to say, yeah, but I'm not happy with the trophy that someone else won? I mean, does that bother you?
Well, thankfully I haven't been online that much over the last couple of days. But I have at least heard the reflection of it. And we did anticipate a little bit of pushback. It was, honestly, we needed trophies. We were behind on a lot of stuff, and it was not made a priority, to be honest. We had an amateur event the weekend before. It's an A tier with 210 competitors and 13 divisions, I think. So I needed trophies for that event. And I was able to work out a deal with thisdying.com to do the trophies for us. And we included the pros because, I mean, why not? It's only 6 more trophies, and on top of 38. And so that's how we ended up with those trophies. The amateurs were thrilled, by the way.
Of course.
They're perfect amateur trophies.
And
also,
I was just going to say, quite honestly, we all know most of our pros, it's been said also, most of our pros don't really care, and they end up they give it away to a caddy, or they just complain that they have no way to ship it and it can't fit in their van, and they don't know if it'll ever get back home or not.
Your trophy either has to be phenomenal,
like mind-blowing,
so that a player goes, oh, this is something I want to display. Or
right.
And let's look at it this way. There's about 8 players that qualifies for. That looks at like, oh, I would keep this. Every other player, I guarantee you, Simon takes that disc and loves it. He hasn't won an NT at Elite Series in a few years. I bet you he takes that and puts it right on a wall somewhere. I don't know. Like, it just, I don't think. Yeah, it
No,
seems
I
like
mean,
it's
honestly, yeah, and Simon did show it on his vlog today.
Mhm.
He was holding it up very proudly.
Exactly.
Cage, not so much, and we completely understand both, you know.
Sure.
And I think it's a fair criticism. At least, you know, we do need to do better there. We need something to at least present, you know, to be part of that whole ceremony at the end of the tournament. We're probably only going to do first place going forward, just because like second and third, you know, most of the touring players don't care. You know, they didn't win, and the payout was good. So if they don't
Yes.
get a trophy, I think they'll be totally fine. But we will do better with the trophy next year.
Well,
I think we'll probably end up with something that stays on site,
mhm.
if it's an actual trophy. Otherwise, you know, it may be something very unique that most players would want to take with them.
Yeah.
Because it is pretty disheartening to spend a fair amount of time and money on a good trophy and then see the player just like not care,
Yeah,
you know,
I've
leave it
literally
at the
seen
venue and not care whether they ever see it again.
Mhm.
players throw away trophies.
Yeah.
Throw them in the
Yep.
garbage.
I saw
after
a
getting
very
them.
disgruntled FPO player years ago take a very nice looking trophy and literally dropped it in a garbage can. I might have been the only person that saw it. I saw it happen. I was just like, oh my gosh. And that was one of the better trophies too.
That's
But they were
heartless.
displeased. They were displeased with their effort and just
their
was like,
finish.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
one less thing
I-
that I want to put in my van or my trailer or my camper or my car. And that was the end of it. So it's yeah. Anyway, you know, this is kind of that classic, like, you know, I think there's a meme around there where, you know, where a teacher like writes, you know, 20 equations on the board. There's one little thing wrong, and every student just points out the one thing that's wrong, not the other 20 things that are correct. And that feels like one of these scenarios. You guys nailed it on so many levels with so many accolades, and then something that doesn't impact the viewers at all is a trophy, and then but that becomes a conversation piece. So
Yep. No, I think the critics are just looking for their end, you know.
Everybody's
I
gotta
guarantee
find.
I guarantee you that anybody that was on site didn't care what the trophy looked like.
yeah, exactly.
You know, any of the spectators that were actually there, like they would not point that out, I don't think. But, you know,
Yeah, you
whatever.
get it. So all you
We
do
have
is you
thick
get,
skin.
you
Yeah.
get a really nice trophy next year, and you put whoever won this year on it as first, you know, or whatever, or you go back a few years and you add everybody onto it, like, oh, this is the OTB trophy or the MVP trophy
Yeah.
or whatever your sponsor is or whatever you want to call it,
That's a
the
good
Stockton
idea.
trophy, and then you just make sure, like, oh yeah, look, we added you because you were the whatever. It just, and you give them a knick-knack to take home, something small, and that I think
that
that's
they could throw like a frisbee.
something they can throw like a frisbee.
So quick follow up to all this. We saw the incredible news a few months ago, in fact, with MVP stepping up in a major way, along with Steve Dodge over at obviously the MVP Open and at Maple Hill, a long-term commitment. Can you share where you guys are? Was this a 1 or a 2 year deal, or is there a longer contract in place, or is that all up for negotiation right now?
So we had a 1 year deal, but we actually had a debrief with MVP this morning, as well as Danny Corbett with OTB, and we haven't really talked terms yet, but we did both indicate that we would like to do a multi-year deal with MVP. So we're gonna, you know, continue discussing that and see what makes sense. But we're absolutely thrilled with how it worked out with them this year. You know, when we signed the agreement in January, we knew that the options for discs was going to be pretty constrained because their production schedule had already been set. A lot of it had already been allocated. You know, we couldn't get like exclusive plastic mold combinations, things like that. It had to be already in the queue. So that really limited us for this year, but we knew it. And Danny was okay with that. So we moved forward, and you know, we talked today about some pretty exciting stuff for next year. I think that will really start to unlock the potential in terms of merchandise next year. But the support all around, from leading up to the event, getting our discs like in the queue, stamped, shipped, was phenomenal. And then MVP sent 5 guys to the tournaments before the amateur event, to support us and to do some retail for them, and they were absolutely phenomenal. They helped us build up the course before AMs and then pros. They did their assets, of course, out on the track as well. But they were basically just part of the event team. Great attitudes, very capable guys, and I see good things in the future with them.
Awesome. It's great to hear, and I think that also speaks volumes in that, as recently as a year or so ago or 2 years ago, I know Shawn Jack may have even been sponsored by a competitor in Innova, and just knowing that you guys, for the best and the greatest good of the event, are willing to set aside some of those personal relationships and whatever to put on the best show for the ultimately the players in the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And so I think that says a lot overall, and clearly it's getting more and more competitive, as I feel
Yes.
like our sponsors are clearly trying to get the most bang for their buck, but events are also asking more and more of the sponsors, event to event as well. So a very competitive space to be in, and you got to wonder who now has the upper hand. It used to be, so interesting to kind of almost beg some event manufacturers to sponsor an event, and you're happy if you got a discount on some discs and maybe a few things for free. And now
Right.
the conversations are so much more intense at such a larger scale, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty pleased with our position. I can say that. I think MVP is really happy with how things went this year, and really want to figure out how to scale it up going forward. So, yeah, I think it's really a different paradigm for events at the highest level. If you're able to execute and deliver value to your partner, be good to work with, that you can be in a good position with a manufacturer like this.
Yeah. Now, the only thing that you guys again dropped the ball on is I didn't see a cheesy commercial with you guys along with Steve over at MVP. That's the only thing that was missing is a cheesy announcement commercial. Cheesy's maybe even a little strong. It was anything with Steve Dodge. You're going to get some humor mixed in there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but awesome to hear,
That's the guy's
and
plan.
big shout out to MVP for stepping up in the way that
Yep.
they have. And then as we start to close it out here, you and Shawn, affectionately referred to as the Shawns, you guys actually have a management tournament directing company, right? Explain to the world, why you would do that and what that exactly means, and should others be following suit?
Yeah, I mean, so after the 2018 SFO, which I was the assistant TD for, um, I took on quite a bit of the responsibilities for that event, and after probably a couple months after the event, Shawn and I talked, and I'm like, hey, I was like, I want to be a partner in this, and I want to take on, some of the financial liability. In 2018, he ran it as a sole proprietor, but I also want to invest, in a business um, that does this sort of thing. And I think as events scale, it makes more and more sense, with the amount of money involved, and the amount of liability that's involved to set up something like an LLC, which is what we did in late 2019 or early 2020. And so, sorry, late 2018 or 2019. So starting with the 2019 SFO, we ran everything through our company, Thousand Rated Productions, and that's basically our financial vehicle or business entity, if you will, that we run the entire event through. And yeah, like I said, I do think it's something that other event um, producers or tournament directors should consider doing. It definitely makes a lot of things easier. Personal tax liability, having some kind of separation between your own personal finances and the finances for the event. I mean, we were up. I think our total revenue was a couple $100,000 this year. And most of that went back out. So if it goes the other way and things fall apart, you do probably want something in between. But also, just it is also a formalized partnership between him and I. I'm very grateful that he was interested in doing that, and I'm very happy that we are in business together.
Yeah, and I think that there's a underlying message for everyone. Anytime you're doing any form of business, always set yourself up, whether it's an S corp or a C corp or an LLC or whatever makes the most sense for you and who you're involved with. Always to do that, just to have that extra layer of protection in case anything catastrophic or terrible would ever happen. You're not getting your kids' college fund taken away,
Right?
Because of some crazy lawsuit or whatever the case might be. There's just a good idea for everyone to do, and go out and get a umbrella insurance policy or something on top of that, even if you have to. Unfortunately, those are all the things we have to do these days.
We do, yeah, absolutely.
Well, it has been.
And for all of those, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's been incredible. Is there any takeaways or final notes, shout outs, whatever it might be, or just any clearing up any other misconceptions or other notes that you want to throw out there for the world? Totally open platform to do so.
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely don't have anything prepared, but I would like to thank everybody who participated in the event this year. The Disc Golf Pro Tour, MVP, Purpley, our core team, which is Andy Rothschild, Corey Morrell, Jeff Faze, Ben Fox, Shawn Pearson, James Teets, Matt Neiman, and a new to the team this year is our brand new volunteer coordinator, John Janone. And then I'd like to thank some of the core people who helped us build the course. Excuse me while I pull that up really quick.
Let's get them all in there. OTB as well, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, Only the Best Discs. Danny and his team are absolutely amazing to work with. We're very fortunate. We knew those guys actually before all of this, and so it's a little weird getting into business with your friends, but it's been phenomenal. I mean, they're super supportive. They handle a lot of the stuff like merchandising that we used to handle, so that's taken a load off us. Yeah, very, very thankful and looking forward to continuing to work with them. Swenson Golf Course, the entire staff there was absolutely fantastic. And I am going to be opening the spreadsheet right now. So I logged all of our hours on the course build out. There's many more names, and I do apologize for anybody I missed. But I would really like to throw a special shout out to Greg Durlew, who is also on our core team and is local to Stockton. Sean Freeman, Stephen Davis, John Olivia, Teresa May Funk, George Kimmerling, Alexander O'Hara, Joe Schulz, Sue Perales, Chris Bates, and Carlos Perales. Without those guys and gals, we would not have been able to do the event that we did this year. So I'm super grateful and humbled for all of the time that they donated and for all of the volunteers that supported the event, both for the amateurs and the pros.
Awesome. Again, I rarely am I not at events, and clearly it sounds like this one I'm going to have to fight for next year to make sure I'm involved. Whether it's whether it's out on the ground doing the sideline reporting or I'm in the booth, either or, it seems like I need to certainly get back. And I'm clearly not surprised by the energy and the effort, the excitement, and just the overall results that I did see and hear from the event. None of that surprises me. It sounds like everyone had a phenomenal time and great golf was provided and solid payouts, just everything. 1,000 rated, I think they would say, or above. Certainly.
maybe we need to rename it 1050 rated.
Yeah.
We
I know.
made that joke a few years ago about some companies that were like, or websites like 1,000 rated back when that was,
Yeah,
you know,
a bigger deal.
a bigger deal. Now it feels like if you want to go big, you got to go 1,100.
Yeah.
I mean,
Planning for the future.
that's right.
No, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to talk tonight.
No, we
Our
really appreciate
pleasure.
it. You know, you guys are out there killing it, and that gives us so much to view, to watch, to for everyone to enjoy, and we get to sit back and largely,
Critique.
Well, yeah, not, but we get to take it all in and benefit from the work that you guys put forth, and we just can't say thank you enough. So hats off to you guys. Hats off to the the Pro Tour and the network, and of course our champions and all the competitors. Like you said, super glad to share a little bit more insight behind the scenes and some more of the background in the story. So thanks so much for tuning in and for jumping on. We had no plans of having you, and you were in the chat, and we just make it happen. So thank you for being helpful and flexible in that way as well.
No, thank you guys for everything. And please, thank you for all of your work. Like, without you guys, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't have had the live streaming, the way that we have it these days. You guys have donated so much of your time to the sport. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate it.
We appreciate
All
it.
right, everyone. That is Shawn Mercy, your TD, co-TD assistant, part team, superstar, all of that of 1,000 rated from the OTB Open presented by MVP. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to the next time I see you, buddy.
All right, take care, guys.
All right,
Have a
take
good
care.
night.
And I know this is going to sound crazy, everyone, but he literally was in the chat. He made a comment.
I saw that.
And right from there, I said, hey, get on the show. And that's how it rolled. So thank you. Absolutely. Unlike his event, no prep work here. We just went right into it. So
That's how we roll at Smashbox.
Yeah.
That's not how they roll.
yeah, they prep, we benefit. That's how that goes. So so glad to have Shawn join us. Thank you to everyone else that has been following along, asking questions, chiming in. Most of you are positive, except for the one typical DB that's out there. Anyway, so we've covered all the results, all the details from the event. We talked about a few of the storylines. I think we've got all of that locked down and taken care of. Johnny, why don't you head over to the PDGA, find out if there's anything else. Usually we see some announcements about some approved discs or any other major projects or initiatives. I've got one for you as soon as you break down the PDGA. What do you got?
Well, I'm looking at the announcements page, and right now they've got the 2022 PDGA World Championships registration dates out there. So you can go out there and for Am Worlds, Masters Worlds, Junior Worlds, and Pro Worlds. You can look. So as of Monday, June 6th, so we're coming up on that in about just about 2 weeks. 970 and above can register.
Oh,
So you and I
still can't.
no, we can't. But can we? Do you think we can
Get
run?
exemptions?
No, they.
I cashed in a Worlds once or a few times.
I don't know. I wonder if I could pull some strings. I doubt it.
Probably not anymore. Those
No.
days are gone.
Those days are gone. But no, I was thinking like, can we quick run an event that we can try to play? Anyway, hope to play well.
A Worlds exemption event that then earns your spot.
Correct. So yeah, that's kind of the PDGA and stuff. As always, there was a couple new discs from other companies that were approved, but you know what? That's whatever. Discs.
Okay.
There's so many in
They
so many
are.
companies,
I know.
and I just I feel bad saying this, but unless it's like a one of our bigger known companies, I don't even feel lately like oh hey, here's something from Monsoon Discs, which I think just released one or something, or maybe it was the Monsoon. I don't know, but anyway, a bunch of discs out there, so please go try all the discs. Honestly, try them all. Buy one of everything. Make everybody happy.
Okay.
PDGA news. We've got, and they talked about it during one of the PDGA interviews on the broadcast, was a call for candidates. There's global board candidacy is due May 31st. So you have 1 week from today to, if you're interested in being on one of the boards, whether I think it's the European board or the PDGA one, you can become a candidate. We had one year where there was a bunch of people who registered, and then it's been kind of dwindling since then a little bit.
People realize that ain't so fun looking.
It's
just to get constantly berated, bashed.
Just think, the decisions that you make just get hammered on. Very rarely does someone turn around and say, that was a really good decision.
Yeah.
Instead, we get negativity. But congratulations. If you're interested in becoming a board candidate, please by all means submit. If you think, just try.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the lottery, right? You're definitely not winning if you don't buy a ticket. Well, you're definitely not getting on a board position if you're not submitting your name. Now, you may or may not win, or you may or may not put in all the effort required, but you're definitely not just getting called up and saying, hey, we're putting you on the board whether you like it or not. So if you're one of those big talkers online, you think you know everything, you've got all the fixes and all the answers, which I know plenty of you do, then by all means put your name on the ballot, get yourself a platform statement. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to just say put up or shut up, but and not everybody's cut out to be a board member. That's very obvious. But
we've seen a lot of people who thought they were, who were not.
We definitely have seen plenty of that. And it just feels like it gives you an opportunity to go out and, maybe be part of that. Also, state coordinators. Every year, half of the state coordinators are
up for election.
They are up for election as well. And that could be even maybe at a more regional or local level, could be your in terms of seeing what goes on and some of the efforts that take place. I myself, I think I held the state coordinator position for, I don't know if it was 18 or 17, 18, 20 years, whatever. It was a long time. And some of the years were much more difficult than others. But now that we've got as many tournaments as we do, it has become a much more laborious task, and but still impactful. So if that's something that you're into, maybe, become a state coordinator. That would be a good option as well. So, and I know there's a lot of people that talk really big about having all the answers, that think they're super smart.
I'm sitting right here, dude.
Yep.
It's awkward.
Yeah. Well, then put your name on a ballot and go out and try and become, that person, that go-to, that resource. All right, Johnny, I sent you a link. I don't know if we can, well, I'm sure we can show it, and I know they won't complain or be frustrated if we do so. Something that's been going around that you may have seen, we're certainly helping make a push for it, and you've seen Bill Nye the Science Guy has gotten involved, and that is the disc golf documentary, History in the Making, and Dennis Werson, who has put together, many years ago, I'd used Flatball, and we put that together. He put that documentary together. Wow, I'm really having troubles with my words now. He put that together. It was amazing. Talked so much about the history of Ultimate. Well, now for a few years, he's been gathering footage and content to put it together for disc golf. And obviously with COVID and what we've seen happen over the last couple of years, the massive influx of competitors, players, tournaments, all of those things, I think even his documentary has taken a slightly different turn. So it's out there. It's an Indiegogo fund right now, and I want to say that, it says right here, there's 3 days left, and we are helping support that. Can we go ahead and play the? I would love to play. I think it's 3 minutes, and I think it's pretty darn good.
I'm playing the preview so people can see it, but it would be a little bit more difficult for us to play it so they can hear it as well.
All right. Well, that's too bad. Okay, well, go out and find it. Hey, actually, I'm going to link to it this very second within the. There we go. Don't go watch it yet. You got to listen to everything Johnny says. But after that, click on that link and go out and, if you can, support it. Dennis, I think, has won some awards. Very, very talented. In fact, I had a great conversation with him a year ago at the OTB Open. He was out there gaining yet more content for it. Super excited. He's talked talked to just about everyone you can think of, and this is going way back in the history books, and talking to so many of the movers, the shakers, designers, whatever, a lot of the early pioneers of our sport. So I'm really looking forward to this documentary coming out. So let's get out there. Let's support it.
Let's do it.
And it's got Bill Nye the Science Guy, who played Ultimate. That's pretty cool.
Certainly did.
Wait, I don't think some people like science. I just remembered that.
Science is real. I've got a T-shirt that says so.
I did talk to, in a very lengthy customer service call, I talked to, I believe her name was Jennifer, and she was, Bill Nye was her 6th iteration cousin away or something of that nature. Somehow she was related to him. We had a much longer, weirder conversation. But I was trying to get my dishwasher, I think, fixed, but somehow we were talking about Bill Nye.
Somehow you're talking about Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Let's just say I've had some weird phone calls in my day.
Your life, Terry. Your life. I don't know.
All right. Do we have anything else within the regular show that needs to get discussed, Johnny? I feel like that was such great insight, too.
It's great insight, Terry. Everything you say is great insight.
No, not from me, from Shawn.
From Shawn.
Although, I'm going to take a little credit here. I see the things that Shawn posts often with regard to tournament directing and a lot of his philosophies. They are eerily similar to what I think a lot. In fact, we've taken our conversation offline, or in a sidebar to have conversations, and it's kind of eerie how often we align on a lot of things. So I'm not saying that's a good thing for him, but we find
Shawn.
ourselves aligning quite often. I think he's a phenomenal guy.
It's probably how Shawn Jack feels when I call him.
Yes.
Like this is going to be something. It could turn into something, but more than likely not, and it's going to be 2 hours.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to close out the regular show. I think that's been a pretty solid. I don't have anything else for you guys.
No, we got after show stuff to talk about, I'm sure.
Oh, sure. We do. All right, guys. We are going to close it out. I will reiterate. I just saw actually a post a moment ago by the Lizotte family as well. I know it had kind of circled around Reddit and other places, but we love you, Simon. We love the entire family, and sorry to hear of your uncle passing, Uncle Peter passing. But, yeah. As he had just said, I think in that post, something to be said about him seeing the performance that he had just this last weekend, and that's certainly something that he can take with him. So thank you guys for joining us. It's been a little bit of a all over place, but we got it all taken care of tonight. This has been podcast 404 with some various lighting.
We'll try to nail down. I'll try to nail down the lighting some point this week. We'll see. So we're not. The problem is Terry and I are very white, like white.
Yeah. Well, we've got our own problems, but then everybody claims that I'm way too red some days.
There are times you are.
For Johnny V and myself, we've got a big thank you again, Shawn Mercy, for jumping on, unprompted, unannounced, unknown to him. But thank you for joining and giving us the insight about the OTB Open. Thank you again to all of my competitors and the incredible staff and crew that put together this last weekend's Skyline Classic. Thank you guys so much. I couldn't have done it without you. We're going to log off. We're going to take a quick couple-minute break, show you some credits. We'll see you in a few minutes when you step inside the Smashbox for the after show.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 404's
After show.
You nailed it.
There's no snow like in Colorado.
Oh, my
Jeez,
gosh.
they're getting hammered in May. Heard someone say like 20-some plus inches they're expecting in some spots.
Yeah, good friend of the show, Dave. Are you sleeping yet? Dave Weisblum out there was saying that he got some snow and not so awesome just north of Denver.
The funny
Boulder
thing
area.
is, though, as we know, it'll be like 80 degrees in like 3 or 4 days, and you just let it melt.
Yeah. Well, hope everyone stays safe out there, traveling safely around. You know, you almost want to say, "Oh, it's been a crazy year for weather," but I feel like we could say that every year, right? And I'm
Depends where
thinking
you
about
are.
on the tour and what we've experienced. It's like,
been
have
really
we had
windy.
Have we had a gorgeous weekend
No,
of golf yet?
I don't.
How was Masters Cup? Even though we only saw one day,
I didn't get.
but have we had a gorgeous weekend? And Evan, I know you're on the board.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably most qualified to tell us this. Has there been one weekend that has been gorgeous or great start to finish? That's what I want to know. There's been nice days.
Do you count wind in that? Because
No, like a 10 or 15 or under, not
like a
like a
calm.
wind that really like destroys the golf. Like just
because this weekend the weather looked good, but day one was really windy.
and wasn't it? Did I hear it was in the 90s? And I know it's California and blah blah blah, but
I'm kind of okay with that.
Yes, you sit in an air-conditioned studio, but I mean 92, 94, like it's not pleasant.
No, and like as Tim said, this year has been windier than normal. We've run into a lot of wind. There has been and I like personally watching the players compete in wind, like DDO having a day like that. It doesn't bother me. Having a whole weekend like that, I don't love that. Having 3 events like that, that's too much. Give me like one event with like a day or two of some really heavy wind, and I think that adds to the competition. I think it creates a different environment that certain players will thrive in. I don't want that every weekend.
It just at a certain point, clearly we know that there are players that can play in adverse conditions, and it's another skill. It's another part of playing the game is being able to compete in the wind. But at a certain point, it also just makes it a lot less fun to play. It's like you can have these adverse conditions, but if they're constant, yeah, it just doesn't seem like a lot of and it takes a little away from the pureness of the game. And of course, wind will always be a factor of the game. We're playing an outdoor sport, so I'm not naive in thinking that. However, like you just said, 3 or 4 straight days of wind, it's like you're not playing your best golf.
No, nobody
and
can
we're
play.
not seeing the best results due to that condition.
I agree. I did make a little bit of cash this weekend though on Prize Picks.
Oh, really?
I was able to. I think I made like $100, $120 or something. Picked a lot of good players that I think the Prize Picks lines were off.
Oh,
because it was really windy. So I bet on day one. I bet a lot of overs. They give you a number and you have to pick a couple players. So I bet the over on them. I think I got all of them.
wow!
No, I missed.
Did you
one.
parlay that into?
I missed Ricky because I missed it by half a stroke because it was at like 50, whatever. It was like 6.5 strokes and he hit 6, but I hit 4 out of 5. Day 2, I hit 2 out of 3, and then day 3, I put in 2 things and I won both of them. So I was pretty happy. And we have a rule in the control room: there's no rooting for players.
Yeah,
I'm breaking that because I told Mo, I said I can root for players if I have money on them.
yes, because that's how.
I'm not rooting.
That's how.
I'm not rooting for any specific player week over week. I'm rooting for my picks. So it's not a favoritism thing. It's a pocket.
Yeah.
Yep. I want it to fill my pocket.
Fair enough. All right. As always, just a quick disclaimer for the after show. This usually will have disc golf loosely themed, loosely laced. That's what you like to hear us talking about. Loosely laced throughout the show. However, It may have nothing to do with disc golf, and we love to take topics that come in off the board. I have a good one.
Okay.
That's believe it or not disc golf related.
Oh, I have a rant that is disc golf related.
All right, let me start first then.
Okay, you go first.
Before I forget it, because I wanted to bring it up last week. If you were purchasing a home or moving into potentially an apartment or purchasing a home.
If you're purchasing a home, talk to Christine Jennings if it's in the Ohio area.
Yeah, never mind. Would you want the neighbor of said residence to come over while you're looking at it and you're really interested, you like it, but would you want the neighbor of that residence to come over at any point before you've sealed the deal and say something along the lines of, "Oh, you know what happened there, right?" Would you want to know that story?
Yeah. I don't know it. And again, I don't know.
You don't know what it is.
I don't know if it would.
Did you say you know what happened, right?
100%. I would 100% want to know the story, good or bad. It does not matter to me. The neighbor could come over.
Because it's happened because let's say you're 98% in on this place already.
If you love the house and it does, what happened before doesn't matter. I don't care if he said, "Oh God, this guy collected elderly people in his basement." Just it was a dungeon down there. I'd be like, awesome. Good foundation, nice and quiet.
Wow.
I would find a silver.
You'd find the silver lining.
I'd find
You'd
the
be
silver
okay with
lining
it.
here. It doesn't matter to
the
me.
owner passed away in the house.
Don't care. My grandfather passed
away. There was
away
an
in his
execution in the house, and that's how someone passed away.
Is it cleaned up? Don't care.
Yeah, it's cleaned up.
No, I don't care. Not my thing.
So you would want to know the story, and then I guess the sub question B to that is, if that's such a thing, should a neighbor who's maybe or maybe not nosy, should they be volunteering it? Is that the right way to kick off a potential neighborly relationship of you coming over and maybe asserting or inserting yourself and sharing a story? Maybe you didn't even give a chance. You know what happened there, right? Old man Jim, pushed his wife off the balcony and died right there in the parking spot. Like, they just offer it. Is that how you should kick off a new neighborly exchange?
One, I think I like that neighbor now because they are looking out for me.
Okay.
I mean, they're probably a little gossipy, clearly, but I'm okay with I'm okay with all of this, Terry.
I thought you would be.
I have zero qualms about like what happened in places prior. Because if you think about it, Terry, I guarantee you there is someone who has died within 100 feet of where we're sitting in the last 500, 600, 700 years. What does it matter? What does it matter?
It matters if it's in the dwelling.
I don't care.
Would it feel weird? We're doing the podcast in your basement.
Nope.
And we knew that some wife or estranged girlfriend murdered the owner of this house like 9 feet behind us.
Nope. Don't care.
And did it with maybe a garden hose.
Garden hose.
Yeah.
I've got a hatchet there in case we need it. No, I don't care. I literally don't care. You could tell me this was built poltergeist style on an ancient Native American burial ground. I wouldn't care.
Okay.
Assuming that it wasn't, against code.
What, truly haunted?
No, not truly haunted. I don't believe in any of that crap. If assuming that, it wasn't the constant protesters outside tear the house down. We want our that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But if it's strictly oh no, that was 1,000 years ago. And this is, there's. I'm not worried about poltergeists. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. Don't sweat me with that stuff, Terry Miller.
All right. I don't believe. I mean,
did something happen in a condo or
no?
Is this related to a story?
Not directly. No. I guess I was just thinking about neighbors. I own a condo. and lots of condo associations. Of course, you have your stereotypical, like, you're just your neighbors. Sometimes when you're within an HOA, I was gonna say occasionally they're cool. I don't know how often you ever hear that, but usually in a lot of those scenarios, you find just either nosy people. Depends on obviously the age in which you're, in the region or the area you live in. Is it just a lot of often older, nosy, elderly people that have just nothing better to do other than to go around and gossip and whatever? And it gets me thinking as the housing market continues to get insane, and so many houses being bought and sold without appraisals, without inspections, without certain disclosures or excusing disclosures. Yeah, the foundation's bad on here. Yeah, we'll take it anyway, and we'll pay $10,000 over asking or whatever. There's just been so many crazy real estate stories that you hear of that are going on right now because of the housing market, and that have been for the last year or so. All of those things kind of just come up, and I think about neighbors, and is it any neighborly duty or non-duty to share with someone that's about to potentially buy or move in?
I mean, that's tough because there are clearly I don't know if I'm unique. I'm clearly unique. I'm a little weird.
Yeah, you're something.
If you found out that there were 12 people murdered in this house, would bother some people
for that? Yeah,
certainly.
Hence, what's partially
so
driving my question.
I understand that, and so the neighbor, is looking out for. And I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure. Someone asked about disclosures. I don't know if something like that needs to be disclosed. I think you just really need to disclose structural issues
and code and
code
and
like
other. I can't imagine that you're legally obligated to, because where do you draw the line at? Well, this Class C felony took place in this house, but this Class B misdemeanor, like now you may want to. Just think, you're a you're the new Christine Jennings.
Lucky me. Do I get to be on the party?
You are selling a house, I guess. Then again, let's say there's no legal obligation, but you have just sold this house where some heinous things officially had gone down, and then a month or two after your buyers have officially moved in, they call you up and they say, "Hey, we just found out about blah 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 happening here. Did you know this?" Well, yeah, I did, but I didn't want to tell you. I mean, that just sounds like we need a licensed real estate agent in the chat or the conversation at this point, just to know what. I'm guessing there's no legal obligation to do so. The question is, does it become just a personal obligation? Yeah. Like a strategic one.
And again, it's coming
because who's going to be excited about it? Let me. Some people might be might pass it off like you and maybe like, oh, I don't care. But nobody's going to be like, oh yeah, I want that place more now. I'll take it.
Maybe not. Terry, a couple years ago, you and I went down to Austin, South by Southwest. We toured around a podcast facility.
Okay, yep.
Gentleman told us the story behind it, about the whole area. It was one of the, it was part of the big Austin in the 80s, the Satanic Panic. The people that were there were brought to, they had like a daycare or something, and the kids had claimed one thing, but then they think that was like false memories because they looked back and later and nothing had happened. It was also a cult compound at one point. It's like a big 7-acre area that has kind of gone through different people over the last couple decades. At one point it was there was literally a cult that had lived there. Mm-hmm. The dude that he was building an entertainment facility, a bunch of podcasting, a warehouse, things like that, and Terry and I had done some work down there and got a nice tour with a couple other people. He was pumped about all of that. That adds to, for some places, that adds to the prestige, to the story, to to whatever of of a location, of a real estate transaction,
storied
a
past
storied past.
that-
I think there are some times that something like that could be advantageous to some people. Now I'm not on Zillow checking the box like murder house. Like, ooh, I only want to buy murder houses. Can you tell me which the closest murder? I'm not, I surf Zillow a lot still, and I'm not looking to move in the next ever. But they don't have a checkbox for murder house, unfortunately.
Maybe they should have some disclosures of some kind. Anyway,
Like I said, and it depends. Is there a difference between somebody murdering somebody at a house or somebody just dying in a house?
that
You know?
originally is what led to my thought process. Is
And,
somebody passed away there 3 days ago. Somebody passed away
Great
there
Aunt
6 days
Pearl
ago.
slipped in the tub, and
Well,
I
I mean, again, unfortunately, a little bit more morbid. You would say, oh, well, someone passed away here, and their family members hadn't found them until a month later. Like, does that affect your
No.
your? Okay,
It doesn't affect me at all. Tim Court says we need a mulch update.
I already got one. Share it, Johnny.
Van Derzen Mulch Mountain is gone. I spent an hour and a half yesterday. I spent a little over an hour today. Yesterday, I spent the hour and a half by myself. Today, I spent a little over an hour, and I literally had to talk my wife into helping me this time, even though she's the one that ordered the mulch. I told her, I'm like, okay, she gardened all weekend, and so she was sore yesterday. She's like, my legs are sore from squatting and pulling weeds and whatnot. So Monday, she didn't want to do any of the mulch work. So I went out and did it. I told her today, I was like, okay, let's get out. Let's finish this up. There's like maybe 2 or maybe 3 cubic yards left of mulch. We can spread it out and put a pile in the backyard and save some of it for next year. She's like, I don't really want to. I'm like, oh, are you still sore? She's like, no, not really. I just don't feel like doing it. I'm like, cool. Let's go. And she's like, oh, really? And I said, well, listen, it's going to rain tomorrow here in Milwaukee. It's supposed to rain Wednesday, Thursday, possibly Friday, and then start to get warmer. And I'm like, I don't want to just have to haul wet. I don't want the mulch out in my driveway for another week. So she's like,
no wet wood for you.
Okay. And so she went in the back, and I shoveled it all into the trailer and hauled it in the back, and she helped pull it out and spread it out. So yes, Mulch Mountain is officially gone.
Dang.
It's
all right. We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna sidetrack back real quick.
I'm just happy to have my whole driveway back.
Yes. It was nice to actually fit into the driveway when I got here today. Evan Ludes out on the board has done some Googling for us, and he says, per the Google, if you are in
Alaska.
I know I was going to say Alaska, California, Delaware, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Nebraska, New Jersey, Ohio, South Dakota, or Vermont, there are circumstances where you would need to disclose a natural death, suicide, homicide, or other circumstances. So just to put a pin in that, button that up. That's what Evan Googled before we did. So thank you for doing the work.
Would it bother you? I didn't even ask.
I don't know. How good of a deal am I getting on this place?
Okay. So I mean, would it bother you if they said the last 5 residents have all died here? Maybe not mysteriously. All of reasonable causes, but all within the last 10 years. Everyone that's lived here in the last 10 years.
5 in 10 years.
5
in
in 10
2
years.
years. Someone's passing away there.
And it just we don't know why. I mean, so and so had a toaster accident. Someone had a tub accident. Someone got run over by a lawnmower. Just it's weird circumstances, Terry.
I mean, I feel like that is a little more questionable in, say, a condominium setting that might have shared walls and shared spaces, as opposed to if you were buying a standalone house. Would it be enough to scare me off? I don't know.
Matthew Shaw says, heck no, not a chance I'm buying that.
Well, that's why, again, I pose the question. So
it's
yeah,
great.
it's I think a large part of it is let's use an example like I just said about condos, an apartment in New York, and it's gone through everything you just said. I feel like that carries a slightly different weight than if you are saying a 3-bedroom ranch house, in a regular old suburb. Like, they just feel a little different. You wonder, how has that so much travesty happened 5 times in 10 years that has some shared walls and shared spaces that you might perk up a little bit differently. So a meth lab,
Meth labs have actual issues with some of the
structure,
the chemicals and stuff that can cause issues. So that would probably have to be disclosed. And my guess is that it would have to be ripped out.
Oh, I thought those only were put up in RVs. No, that's not where the only.
It's not. No. That's not the Walter White place.
Plan. No. Okay. All right. So that's glad we got that one. All right. So what is dare I ask now? What's your disc golf rant?
Oh, USW DGC. I've been talking in the last few weeks about how I want to go to the USW DGC.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to caddy for somebody. I don't know who. I don't care who. I'll probably show up on Saturday and just see.
Nobody wants that.
Maybe not. I'll look at someone in the top 3 cards and just see if someone.
Oh, okay. So you're just a clout chaser.
Yes.
You want to find a top performing competitor.
Yes, because I don't know anybody towards the bottom of the field, probably. Maybe I find somebody.
They don't want to know you.
They probably don't want to know me. Anyway, I'll probably look around because I want to watch good golf. I want to watch people who are in contention.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You're setting this up well.
I am.
You're really setting a great
so,
stage.
Anyway, I've been looking at the USW DGC stuff.
Okay.
There's a Facebook page which is supposed to have spectator tickets. I haven't seen anything come up. I'm on the Facebook page. That's where the TD told me to look. I've had a couple of other people reach out and ask if I've seen anything. I haven't, so let's get that taken care of. USW DGC. It's coming up. But then I was looking at post-production. I was looking at live because we're going to be there live and I'm not going to be doing any of the switching, which is awesome. I get a weekend off. And I was looking and I was like, well, I was confused, honestly, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. Why?
Do we need a disclaimer to read first?
I don't know.
I, Terry Miller, don't necessarily agree with any of the dumb shit that Johnny V says or is about to say, even though I have no idea what it is.
There's a good chance of
Okay,
that.
go on.
Why isn't GK Pro doing USW DGC lead card? Why is it Jomez? I don't understand this, and this isn't. Let me disclaimer. This isn't a knock on Jomez. They're going to do a great job. GK Pro has been doing FPO coverage all year, and will do it all year long. Why aren't they doing USW DGC? What is the idea behind a company like GK? And maybe they can't do it. I haven't really talked to them. I don't know. I have no clue. I'm just literally
You're blazing in, wildly informed. Continue.
Uninformed and blazing in. Why does GK Pro build up this FPO audience where everybody goes every week that wants to watch FPO, but I'm not going to say the biggest, but because we have Worlds and you could argue Throw Pink, but one of the biggest, an FPO major. Why aren't they getting that? That to me is absurd. And again, maybe they can't. Maybe this is part of the $500,000 Jomez deal that they get all this majors. My guess is it has something to do with that. It makes no sense to me logistically as to why you build up an audience to find it in one location and then suddenly for one event, the biggest event, the event that people are looking forward to, you take that away from them and give it to Jomez, who is covering all the MPO stuff and other majors, and then afterwards you go back to GK Pro. I don't like it. To me it feels gross. It does. It's I don't know. Like I want consistency. And if I'm someone who really enjoys watching FPO coverage, I have a place where I go now. They have a set. They've got the 2 Hot Geese. They've got a really good set standard. I honestly today I looked at some of their stuff thinking, well, Jomez does a phenomenal job. They have a huge audience. They've got like 250 or 350,000 subscribers. So they're clearly going to get more views. Like, well, maybe the Jomez video is just that much better. Maybe their graphics and everything. No. Like GK Pro's knocking it out. They're doing really, really great stuff. I don't understand the mentality. I don't understand the thought process as to why you would take a place that has built up an audience for a specific type and move it for one event. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer. What I do think is whoever made that decision should get kicked in the balls.
Wow.
I don't know if it was a PDGA or it was a DGBT. I don't know. I don't care. But my guess is that they have balls and they should be kicked in them.
And I'm going to speak out of ignorance. I know, shocking, right? I'm sure somewhere there was obviously it's part of a contract. The question was when majors were discussed and locking in Jomez for certain majors, I'm guessing this fell in line with said majors.
Probably.
That's just my guess. And I know some people on the board are saying, is that part of what they paid for? Was that part of the rights? Was that part of...
It might be. It probably is.
Clearly, well, in fact, we should probably just look for that announcement. I know that announcement probably listed that's where...
It just seems weird that, and again, Jomez doesn't cover a single women's event all year long. And again, not a knock on Jomez because
of course
they've got a ton of subscribers and they're going to do a great job. It's going to get way more views on Jomez than it will on GK.
And I'm sure that is largely the reasoning for
that's
for it is putting your eyes where the most people will see it. I'm guessing that is the exact reasoning and logic.
Then we should be making them cover Worlds. Then we should be making them cover Throw Pink. Because if that's the goal, if their goal is to have the most amount of viewers view the biggest events, that's what they should be covering for women. But instead, it's just this, my understanding, it's just this one event, because Jomez will be covering MPO for Worlds. We know that. They'll be covering, I don't think they're involved in USDGC again this year. I don't know for sure. I don't think anything's been decided, and if it was, I'm not involved. But just this one major makes no sense to me as to why it's being taken. And I'd say this about anybody. If it was going to Gatekeeper, if it was going to your channel, Terry, GK Pro is the place for women's golf. They should be having the lead card for this, is my opinion. And again, there's probably a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I'm not taking into account. It just feels wrong. And I'm probably talking out of school here, but I don't know. Like, because the way I look at it, if you're interested in women's golf, you know where to find it.
Sure.
Moving it to Jomez, while it will get more views, is it going to get more quote unquote interest? Just because it shows, just because you go from whatever GK Pro is getting, 10, 20, 30,000 views, I don't know, I haven't looked, to Jomez, which will get 50, 60, 80, 100,000 views probably, if not more. Is that going to translate then to go back to if we don't see a huge jump in GK Pro subscribers after that, what is the point? Right?
Yeah.
Because if it's a one-time stick a needle in it and watch it explode and then it goes away, then it's not worth it. And it's a stupid decision.
Well, in all fairness, just quickly Googling and going back.
Tell me where I'm dumb, please.
Well, I don't have all night, for God's sake.
Come on.
I'm just looking at the Alta World article published on our buddy's birthday, 2/22. Back in February, the headline reads, DGPT sells 2-year MPO lead card post-production rights to Jomez for $500K. The elite... I don't want to speak. I don't know for sure. All right, it says blah, 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 negotiations. I'm going to kind of quickly read through this. Our goal in the last few years is to work it out with Jonathan, da-da-da-da. They lead the channels with more than 360,000. Produce next day post-produced MPO lead card coverage at all DGPT Elite Series events in 2022 and 2023, along with MPO lead card coverage at the PDGA Pro Worlds and the PDGA Champions Cup, both majors. And they will return to the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships to provide lead card FPO coverage as well.
They've done it before, and they've done a great job, and it's not a Jomez thing for me.
No, I get it.
It's just, like, it doesn't
So
make
it was
sense.
part of the contract because I believe that the DGPT has been in DGN has been
A media.
awarded or is the media rights holder for these events. And so as part of that, it was part of this overall contract for Jomez to be covering that. I'm reading in terms agreed, Pro Tour, middle ground, blah, 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 generated media, so on and so forth, multi-year deal. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that is specific to, because as you're saying, the U.S. women's is the one outlier in this entire conversation, which is part of what you're bringing up.
If Jomez wants it and they want to put it out there, that's great. I'm so happy that they want to expose more people to women's coverage. It's phenomenal. And it's going to get more views. I just don't like that it's being that like one of the big events that you really can set your hat on. Like you've built up this audience to make it move. And I understand it's all about money. It probably is. It's all about, being able to that the $500,000 for the 2 years, doing a lot of different stuff. I would rather see it on, even if I know this, and maybe some of the FPO players disagree with me. I would rather see it get less views and still have the dedicated fan base that is there than have it go to Jomez and get more views but not do anything. Like not help the FPO field in the long run. And that's such a subjective thing because you don't know. Maybe it gets on Jomez and maybe GK Pro's channel does take a huge jump after that. I don't know. I just don't like the idea of it switching channels for me. Just like I wouldn't want, even though I'm sure GK Pro would, I wouldn't want GK Pro to cover MPO Worlds. I want Jomez to do that because they have set a standard of where it's going, where you show up to Jomez to see that MPO lead card.
I hear what you're saying.
I just don't like it. I don't like it, and that's my uninformed rant for the night.
Yeah, and to continue on that theme of you being uninformed.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I'm here for it.
You also have no idea, presumably, if
none. I'm sure this is the answer
GK Pro wanted to do it, was available to do it.
I have no clue if they're
available.
Or
whatever the case might be.
I have no clue.
Yeah, okay.
I'm guessing they would be, but I can't say for sure. I don't know. I haven't talked to them. Maybe I'll reach out to Blaine or Bobby or someone.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, that's out there. I think
that's my disc golf rant. That's your disc golf part of the after show.
I will be curious. I am curious. Let me get a sentence out here as to what the commentary will look like.
Yeah, who's gonna? I mean, we don't know. It could be Paige Pierce, and because Paige does the
she's done some.
She's done a podcast with Jomez.
Sure.
So maybe they get Paige Pierce to do commentary. Maybe they get the two hot geese to come in and do Jomez commentary. I don't know.
Maybe it's two other people. Maybe it's still Ulibarri, German, and Sexton.
Maybe.
Absolutely could be. And that too will bring just an interesting new dynamic to,
because there's no reason why you can't have men commentate or women commentate men.
Absolutely, exactly. You absolutely can.
Or Hannah and Christine, as someone says on the board.
Yeah, thankfully for you and I, this is above our pay grade, and
I don't have to think of anything.
Not ultimately our concern.
I just get to pull a pin on a grenade and throw it.
I understand where your argument is coming from.
I
understand what you're saying.
It just feels odd.
Okay.
Chris Carpenter says, "Well, I just came in. What happened? Jomez is switching to FPO? No. Although if we did want to push the FPO, we would make Jomez cover them, right? If you truly want to expose,
if there was a longer concerted effort, I feel like that would then have a payoff if that was an initiative.
If the goal was, hey, we want to, because I think for live and this year has been phenomenal. The FPO competition this year has been better than the MPO competition in almost every aspect when it comes down to the finals. We walked into this event thinking, all right, here it is. Here's the walk in the park. The FPO is going to be boring. This is a victory lap for Paige Pierce. Natalie Ryan changed that. Mm-hmm. We walked into this one thinking, oh, this is going to be a competition. We got Simon, we got AB, we got Drew. This is going to be a great round. Simon ran away with it. He just got up and no one could catch him, and it was kind of boring. Now, I'm happy Simon won, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's excited for that. No one dislikes Simon. It turned out to be the same way we've seen almost every week, where the FPO competition is great. And a couple years ago, we made a conscious decision to put the FPO after the MPO to help improve the numbers. That was the whole idea. It helped lower the cost of production because we could kind of just meld everything together. It worked great. It gave FPO a little bit more exposure at the time, and now we've decided to separate them out again. And I think now is a good time because, again, we're seeing the FPO live numbers really improve and the MPO live numbers improve at virtually an equal rate. They're going up. So I understand all of this stuff. It's just... Yes, let's get OWN to do commentary. If they can get OWN to do commentary, I don't care what channel it's on, I will be there.
Then you'll change.
I will be there. I might just sit by OWN and record commentary and watch something else because that would be the best. Hopefully, she's busy winning or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe tomorrow you'll get an update from some of the powers that be that will answer your questions as to how it did or didn't come about. I clearly don't know all the details either. I think back to years ago when I was hosting a majority of the FPO coverage, when I was more focused on doing post-production prior to doing, versus the live or live and post. And my channel housed a lot of that FPO coverage and still does, obviously, the archives. And I remember thinking there is something to be said about some consistency, and GK Pro has certainly provided that consistency over the last couple of years, and they've worked very hard for that base.
Yes.
So I understand where that's coming from, although none of those decisions are put into our lap by any means. So
no, and I, like I said, I hope GK gets a huge bump in FPO viewers when a bunch of people watch it on Jomez, and see the great competition that's out there. Just don't know. So many people love Jomez for like the commentary. Like they love hanging out with Nate and Jerm and Yuli and whoever's on there. And maybe like I said, maybe they'll be on this one. Maybe they won't. I don't know. If it's different, I will be.
If I had to guess, this is
feels
nothing more than a guess.
Well, because traditionally we've seen women for women's coverage, men for men's coverage.
Yeah, I would personally doubt that we would hear any of those three as part of the commentary, but that's nothing more than a guess at this point.
All right, I'm expecting to wake up to a nasty email from somebody.
Well, that's what happens when you're not smart. You're smart sometimes.
Sometimes I'm smart.
All right. Maybe we'll have an offline conversation. Maybe Hannah McBeth. I know she's out on the board. Maybe she has some insights.
I think she's going to be at USWDGC, so I'm hoping to give her a high five when I see her.
She's hoping.
She's probably hoping she's going to turn around and be like, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah,
I don't know him.
She's going to run the other way. All right. Anything else going on in the non-disc golf world?
I am rewatching.
Ooh,
Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
Because
can't you watch the last 8 minutes of like the new season? Were you telling me that last week? That you can watch the first 8 minutes. Maybe I saw it somewhere else. You can watch the first 8 minutes of the last season or the next season or something. I don't know. Maybe it was just an ad. Somebody was making a big deal of it. I'm like, why would you want to watch?
Like maybe just to catch up as far as what's going on. Sure.
Yeah,
you could watch the last 8 minutes of the last episode.
No, it was the first 8 minutes. What season are they in? Let's answer that question. Is it done?
No, they're going into season 4. I believe it's a 5-season
Then
arc.
the ad or whatever I heard was you can watch the first 8 minutes of season 4. And I was just
okay. So it's like a preview. It's like a teaser.
Yeah,
It's like, okay,
heard that as someone who's never watched 1 minute of Stranger Things.
My son, who's 12, has always been a little like skittish when it comes to scary things. Well, he came home. We were talking the other day, and he's like, "Can we watch Stranger Things?" And my wife and I looked at each other like, "Yeah, that'd be great. We'd love that. That's right up our alley." Mm-hmm. So yesterday we watched,
and that's age appropriate.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's literally about, it's about as age appropriate as Stand By Me. It's about a bunch of 10 to 11 or 12-year-old kids who get into trouble, and it's a whole supernatural thing. And there's a little bit of swearing, and there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, whatever. So we're watching the first episode last night, and there's a few jump scares, and he likes to talk through things like, "Oh, I think there's a jump scare coming." It's like, yeah, we all know there is a jump scare coming, kid. That's the point. You know what made him the most uncomfortable? Watching the two teenagers make out on a bed.
With mommy and daddy watching.
The 16-year-olds. No, it's really funny. Almost anything that thing. He's 12. He just like, why do they have to show that? What does that do for the plot of this thing? He's like, this doesn't help out at all. And I'm kind of like,
you'd be surprised what.
I'm like, yeah, buddy. Well, no, you're 12.
You'll figure it all out.
Figure it all out.
One way or another. It'll all make sense someday.
So I did get a kick out of that, and he would rather watch a monster devour a person than two teenagers devour each other.
Okay, fair enough. I think that makes sense.
It very funny.
What
are you doing anything? Do you have any?
No, nothing. I'm big hugs out to my youngest daughter, who's 11, who has officially been diagnosed with a sinus infection and has not been treating her well these last few days. And you know that Kenzie is feeling it when she barely wants to be on her phone. She barely wants to be running or jumping around. She doesn't want to be going anywhere at 10 or 11 or midnight, to Quick Trip or be doing anything. You know she's not feeling well when she's that full out of commission. So, yes, hopefully she starts feeling a little bit better. It's been a very painful few days for her.
But peaceful for probably a few other people in your house.
That's true.
Your wife,
she's definitely been
your other daughter
on the down low with this sinus infection. But hopefully it's on its way out.
Yeah, of course we want that.
No, my two daughters, were supposed to. One, Kenzie, couldn't go last night. It was, I guess, an annual assessment for volleyball skills, and they had a huge turnout for the volleyball program, club, whatever you want to call it, at the school.
Your older daughter Allison was on volleyball last year.
The last couple of years, now Kenzie wants to be in it next year, and of course, she was sick for the assessment, which I think of it both ways. I think, well, if you're bad, you're going to get put on a team with some other better players because they try and even it out.
Okay.
And if somehow they think you're good, or you actually end up being good, and you're on a team with worse players, well, then you look like a superstar. So I guess either way, there's a silver lining.
So you're saying she should sandbag?
Well, no,
your daughter's a sandbagger.
She didn't get to go to the tryout at all because it was last night, and she was definitely feeling ill. So. I don't know what the protocol is going to be now, but I always think of, it's entirely ignorant and selfish, but I always think of like, this is a really big deal. How is your kid not at that thing, whatever it is? And last night being the assessment, like it's a big deal. There was like 150 kids that were supposed to be there. And I was like, oh wait, my kid has a legit sinus infection and feels absolutely terrible and shouldn't be going anywhere. That's how she's not there. So a little empathy was learned on my behalf last night.
We can all learn a little empathy.
For sure. Matthew says, Terry, how old are your kids? I have two daughters, PDGA 40738 and PDGA 50738. They are 11 and 13. Allison and Mackenzie. Johnny has two kids as well.
I do. Both of your kids are almost exactly 9 months older than both of my kids. Mm-hmm. So my son is 12. Yeah, it's weird. Both of my kids with your wife are 9 months older than kids. No. My son is 12. He'll be 13 in July, and my daughter is 10 and will be 11, because that's what comes next, in December.
Can we just agree that one of the dumbest cliches in all of the world, and I don't think cliches is the thing, but, and I get it, there's some exceptions as to why it gets said, but how many people say 39 going on 40? No shit. Mm-hmm. Like, we as a society, at least
we know how numbers work.
Least in the U.S. I would love to know if any other culture says anything of that nature, any other heritage or culture or country. Like, we so often say it's so ingrained in us. 44, going on 45. Like, and
Like,
I get it. Some people will say,
if it's close, if your birthday's close, like I'm 44, about to be 45, or going on 45.
Yeah.
And like if it's within like a week or so.
no, everybody.
But if you just turned 44 like a month ago, you're like, how old are you? 44, going on 45. Like,
I know, but we all say it. Now, the one exception I understand is when you're going for the emphasis of like, I would say about my 13-year-old, like, sometimes she's 13, but, going on 30, like, with the way she is in a certain incapacity. I understand that's
I think that's a movie, but
I don't know what you're watching.
13 going on 30. I think it's like an old Jennifer Garner movie.
It might be. But
I need to look now.
So I understand when it's used in that context, but when you're just generically using it as like, 47, going on 48, like, we know how that works.
Totally nailed it. Jennifer Garner, Mark Ruffalo,
is that like
Brie Larson?
Is that
Andy
like a
Serkis?
big knockoff, like a swapping, like a Freaky Friday?
I have no clue.
play?
I have no clue.
I feel like I've seen it. Sadly enough, I'm gonna.
I know
that.
I haven't, but I just remember it for some reason.
Well, come on, Rotten Potatoes. Read a girl.
A girl who's sick of the social structures of junior high is transformed into a grown-up overnight. It's big.
Yeah,
come on.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Freaky Friday. I mean, whatever. In this feel-good fairy tale.
Oh, teenager, blah blah blah, wants a boyfriend. Yeah. Okay. And don't act like you haven't. You're sitting at home like, that was a good one. I know how. Not you, but all of our listeners.
Oh,
like, that was one of my favorites.
No, I'll tell you. Like, I told everyone a couple weeks ago, I have a type of movie. I love watching the teenage rom-coms, the big party movies, that type of stuff. The like this 13 going on 30, not up my alley.
Aren't you a big Jennifer Garner fan?
I do love Jennifer Garner. My wife and I, one of the very first things we watched together was Alias when it was out on ABC, like literally as it was happening, because we didn't have DVRs back then.
You had VCR.
And none of us had a VCR really, because DVDs were a thing, so everyone got rid of their VCRs. No, we watched Alias. Yeah, I do like Jennifer Garner.
I know you do.
I know you know me.
Anyway, so this upcoming weekend, no
event
in any Elite Series capacity, and I think one of the phrases that was used with regard, I believe, to right around the Portland time, or for the Portland event the weekend after, was, enjoy your time off. Once we hit Portland, that might be like the last weekend until Worlds or something, where we don't have an event on the Disc Golf Network or the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And that sounds insane.
Because there's the match play. That was a big talk this weekend about who qualified for match play and who didn't quite get there. We've got a lot of stuff coming up after Portland.
Yeah, it's just insane. All the other things that are in the works, or I should say not in the works, should I say just on the schedule, including international play, including as the season continues to wind down into the World Championships, and then obviously into the playoff formats, and then the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. Just so many things all on the horizon. Plenty of golf coming at you guys. There's no doubt about that. I was just going to try and scroll over here for a second. I wanted to look at our consecutive weekends just to kind of read them off for people. Portland.
Well, those are not the consecutive weekends.
No, not necessarily, but they're relatively close, almost consecutive. I just think about Portland, Beaver State Fling, Preserve, Idlewild, Sula, European Open, D-Glow, Mid-America, Ledgestone. Yeah, I mean, so many of these are with one or no weeks in between them. That's what I'm emphasizing. Absolutely crazy.
Matthew Shaw says, next week you all should do a show with your wives.
Yeah.
First of all, his wife's in bed before we start the show.
Yeah.
She's a very early sleeper, and my wife has no interest.
Yes. All of the above.
I'm excited. I should be getting my Mach 7 tomorrow in the mail.
Oh.
So I'm going to be assembling that and putting that in the backyard. So if I get it tomorrow, by next week I should be the best putter?
Probably not.
Is that how it works?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to practice putt on
for some others,
but I'm just saying once you
it
have
just
the
makes you a better putter by owning one.
Yeah. that how that works?
Yeah,
You don't think so?
I'll put out a quick tease that I don't want to announce because they haven't announced it.
I'm going to put the tease to a tease.
Tease to the tease. No, it's just that I am excited. I'm going to be teaming up with a couple of my buddies, and the Disc Golf Guy is going to be bringing you U.S. Women's Lead Card cover. No, okay, just kidding. We're not.
What?
No.
But
But there is going to be a different large-scale event that I think we've locked in the details. You're going to have to wait for the official announcement, but looking forward to getting out there in a
Valley
post-production.
View League night.
A post-production format of putting out another large-scale event that may or may not include professionals. So PDGA will be working with us on that. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to all of the people who are going to sign up at patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Oh, yeah, get on it.
Every last one of you. It is your civic duty.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it goes basically like voting and then Patreon. So patreon.com/SmashboxTV. If you listen to the show, whether it is on YouTube or we put it out on Twitch, put it out on Facebook, we put it out on every audio format you could basically think of. If you listen to it, I think you owe us. Yeah, I mean,
I think we owe them.
I'm just saying they probably owe us.
I think we owe them,
I mean,
but okay. We should have a reverse Patreon. If you're dumb enough to listen to everything that we say, then we should probably pay you money.
Listen.
I mean, dedicated enough. Because nobody should be listening to
Here's the
everything
way
we
I look
say.
at it, Terry. You at least owe us $2 for the regular show, and we probably owe you $1 for the after
There
show.
you go. So,
At
so a
least.
net of $1.
I mean, in the net of $1, you probably
We'd
owe us.
appreciate it.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV is where you can support our podcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can continue to listen to us yahoos and support and get access to a weekly giveaway, our Patreon discs, which Terry has. I don't know if you have any updates on those.
Oh, I do. They said it's going to be a while yet, so quit holding your breath.
All right, so don't hold your breath on that. The clothing supporters, those are on the way. I just approved the artwork for those from Miles, so hopefully we should see those pretty quick. And again, patreon.com/SmashboxTV. Terry, we have 181 people eligible for our giveaway this week.
That's 50 less people than what competed in this event this weekend. Right. And I set aside a couple of gems just so that our Patreon supporters could be rewarded. And if you love ESP buzzes that are absolutely gorgeous, get yourself on board with that beauty. Look at that. It's a little turtle.
I saw Ellen Widboom say she wants one.
She wants one. I've got something lined up for Ellen. Bogies are dumb, but Ellen loves the turtle stamp from this weekend. So got you. We may have to even throw in a little bit of the official turtle towel, little DG guy / turtle towel on there. Nice, beautiful towel. And as Johnny was just showing you, I'll show you again the beautiful Skyline Classic. This is an ESP buzz with beautiful colors, configuration, whatever you want to call it. I do have a few more of these, maybe secretly available for sale, and I may have had a very, very small run of the ESP Zeus and some McBeth Lunas that are available in terms of supporting the event and the efforts. I got bills to pay. Let's be real. I have bills to pay off on all of that added cash we did. So, if there's a few left on both of those, but very few. Those are hard to come by, but you do have the chance right now, if you're already signed up, to win this guy. And yes, that is multicolored.
And it's turtle colors.
And it's turtle colored-ish. It's like an aqua.
That's like a green.
It's like a greenish. Yeah, this is a little
green.
bit green.
It's pretty green.
Couple of colors of green. So
yeah,
reach out if you're interested in some other of the molds that I do have left over. A very few select other molds as well. Reach out, and we can make that happen. But here we go. Let's give this bad boy away.
All right, Terry. How do we want to give it away? We have 181 people eligible for our giveaway.
Oh my goodness! It has been 4 years since Simon Lizotte last won an Elite Series event. So I'm going to go with the poll. of 4 for Simon Lizotte.
All right, so our first number is 67. Our second number is 163. Our third number is 34. I always ask you, Terry, higher or lower than 34?
Oh, this is definitely higher.
Terry says higher on 34.
It's just a numbers game.
The answer is 96. Congratulations, 96. If you're the 96th person, I'm just kidding. Reach out to me. Here, let me find out who's 96. I sorted it by email address backwards. So 96 is, it just says John, which is not me, but I believe it's like John Vale, according to his email address. So John Vale, we'll reach out to you.
We will. Yeah, we're going to send you an email, and then you're going to have to make sure to send us your address so that I can get this sweet towel.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Oh, yeah, because cameras are hard. This sweet towel along with this disc. And as I said, if you guys are interested in any other of the incredible support and player pack type items, I have very few extra remaining. Appreciate that. And thank you to all the supporters of the event. We had a few people step up and contribute in terms of additional sponsorship as well. So thank you to all of them. Adam Schleiss, I'm talking to you. All right.
Terry, close this show out.
Do we... I just got a text here. I don't know if we want to entertain this. Got a text from Simon Lizotte. Do we want to hear from him for a few minutes if he's available?
Yeah.
I think that seems you...
I mean, I've got nowhere to be. It's not quite midnight yet.
Yeah, what else do you guys... I don't know. Do the fans want to hear from him?
All right,
let's
take a quick poll. Fans,
Yes.
do you want to hear from Simon Lizotte?
Just when everybody's tuned off and they're going to be like, what? I don't have an official confirmation. I'm waiting for him to see if he is available. He just sent me a message.
Well, our first answer from Carney Schill is no. So sorry, Simon. It was a good chance.
Carney said no, so you got the axe. Not going to work out. Well, if he...
Send him the link, and we'll see if he pops in. We'll maintain for a little bit longer.
I will see if I can send him the correct link and message, and if it's something that he is interested in jumping on for. And if so, we could maybe
he just asks if we're still on, so he can call you personally.
That is absolutely possible. So that's why I'm not making any promises yet. But get your marshmallows ready. We'll see if we can make some magic happen. Sorry, let me...
Terry was on, I think he said, League Night this week. So if you're interested in hearing more from Terry, if this wasn't enough for you, you can find it on the Disc Golf Network.
Twice in one night?
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast tomorrow, too.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Some gentlemen reached out, and I apologize. I believe they're from Finland, and I know it's a 7-hour time difference. So tomorrow, it is not live, but tomorrow I will be on a podcast as well. And I think they release maybe on Fridays, and I believe it is with a few gentlemen from Finland. So randomly had reached out to me, and I was more than happy to oblige.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Are you guys going to be talking about the European events?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Okay.
They just asked if I would be willing to join. I said yes, and I'm easy like that, and next thing you know, we're ready to go. Yeah, I will have to... unfortunately, I don't have their information directly in front of me.
I do want to know from our... Right now, we have a bunch of dedicated Smashies out there. How many of you, in the last week, have listened to the cat song? What kind of cat are you? I just want to know, because I've heard it at least 2 or 3 times in the last week.
I've still never heard it.
Oh, well.
So after the show tonight, I'm going to definitely have to actually hear it as it is.
Okay, after the show, we'll play it.
All right. To give the shout out here, Victor Nielsen is looking for American disc golf profiles to guest our podcast, and the podcast is called Let's Snackaplast, which is Swedish for Let's Talk Plastic. And they've had Scott Stokely and
you love
Luke
snacks.
Sampson. I do. Linus Carlson has been on, Luke Sampson, so Scott Stokely. I'm in quite the elite group and am honored to do so. So I'll be joining them tomorrow. Like I said, I think they publish maybe on Fridays. So we'll keep you posted on that. I'll make sure to put it out there.
I will make sure to probably not listen to it.
I've
heard enough from you. I'll go listen to the other ones. I'm not listening to yours.
That's probably a good call. All right. I apologize. We're just waiting.
We're seeing if Simon is available or not. Has he read the?
I don't know. I sent it to him in my secret Simon chat way. Super secret.
Let's share that with everybody.
And he very well, like you said, he may be just asking if it's actually done and not necessarily. He also was a little confused multiple times on time zones today. So, because it's one off of ours.
He might think it's 9:00.
Yeah. He said that he has got super busy, was filming and cooking. Question is, was he filming his cooking?
Could be. It's the new Simon and Jomez cooking show?
Quite possibly. I don't know. I don't know what they're working on. I am just sitting here and
we're just literally filling time now.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. Somebody. Oh, well, let's get a plug in here. Ryan Pilcher, who is a big help this weekend as well for me, is hosting. Well, Ryan, why am I plugging your event when I think it's all sold out? But he's going to be hosting the Wisconsin-Illinois Border Bash, which I believe consists of 18 holes down at in Round Lake, and then 18 holes over at the Silver Fox course. So 2 very long rounds of golf to be played taking place this weekend. But I think it's all sold out, so you guys can't sign up even if you want to. All right. Do I make a phone call? Do I just call him?
You could text him or call him, yeah. Call him right on the air. We can mute your phone too.
Mm-hmm.
Or mute your microphone.
Here, how about this? If we really want to convince him to join, here's his number. Everybody give him a call.
Text him or call him.
Okay, maybe not such a good idea.
Tim Court says he did the stamp art for that as well.
Oh, love it. And Tim, I think you're coming up to play in the event, are you not?
He says he asked earlier if he should be scared of Silver Fox. Depends on the quality of player you are, honestly.
I mean, it is a very difficult course, that's for sure. Get the kid recommendations, Carney Shill.
Carney Shill says he Googled it, and now, unfortunately, it's like when you accidentally click on an ad when you're scrolling through Facebook, like, oh, yeah, I'm scrolling through, like, oh, a T-shirt, or I'm going to mute your microphone, Terry, a T-shirt, and you bump it, and suddenly now you're getting T-shirt ads for the next 50 years. So that's what happens. Is there anything else that we've been doing lately? Literally watching grass grow out my backyard with the I want my grass to grow faster because when we put a little patio out there and we had to but we replanted and reseeded a bunch of grass, and it's still soft and wet because we haven't had a lot of warm days, so I've been waiting literally for it to grow so I can take the straw off and walk on it because it's still soft and muddy, and if I walk in it, it'll put big footprints in it. So no go with Simon. Oh, hold on. Terry wants me to unmute him.
I did not get an answer at the moment, so if it's not in the next few seconds or a few minutes, I should say, we'll just call it. But it does bring me on my way here. I was thinking about in terms of other things happening. I had a small bout of road rage today. We've all been there.
Never.
Somebody is clearly in a hurry, and they come up and they are completely riding your tail, and then because you're not either getting out of the way or moving fast enough for them, they dart over to the lane next to them just to have that person also not move fast enough, which then you're usually chuckling. And at some point, this guy makes an absolute dangerous move to swerve around somebody to get in front of somebody else, all for us just to stop a quarter mile later or whatever it was. And this is when everybody's doing like 40, 45 on Capitol Drive, doing 40, 45, but this guy feels like he needs to do 65 or 70 just to then be stopped at the same stoplight I am. And then he darted in front of me, basically cutting me off. Again, half mile or mile later, we're next to each other. And at that point, I just rolled up my window and I just yelled a whole bunch of really mean things at him.
Wow.
Unfortunately, his window wasn't open, and I just kept yelling at him because it's how I was.
Did he see you yelling?
Oh, yeah, he saw me, and he was, he was
like pretending
acting
not to
all
look?
tough. No, he was acting all tough, like, and he, was just blowing me off. I'm just thinking, like, here you are out swerving in and out of all of these cars, riding people's asses, just being an absolute dickhead, all just so that we can be stopped right next to each other. Keep doing that, you winner. Keep doing that. It's so infuriating, and he probably made the right move that he wasn't engaging with me in any way, but I was fired up. I just can't stand that. Like,
I'm with
and
you.
normally I don't get all too worked up about it, but the way he was genuinely driving like a reckless idiot, all just to get nowhere faster. And then I see him pull up on the next people, and he's just riding them. I was waiting for a brake check because he was going to go right into the car in front of him at that point.
And ultimately, that's the most fun thing to do, right? Brake check somebody when you see him riding up on you.
Oh, for sure.
Like, just tap them, like, just a little bit, just so the brake lights get on a little bit, and give them a little scare.
Yeah, well, that's, I don't know. All right, well, unfortunately for our world, and maybe he was just checking in and has other things going on, because inevitably what's going to happen. We're going to log off.
I'm going to log off.
And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, yeah, I can jump on. He's I'm sure has plenty of things going on. I know they're doing some filming.
We'll record it.
Yeah, there you go. We'll put it out there as an after show, but
or as a Patreon exclusive or something.
Ooh.
If it happens, that's where it will be.
Yes, that's actually a good call. Pilcher says, I watched the new George Carlin documentary on HBO.
I've been
liked
meaning
it.
to watch that. I want to watch it.
That does, I think I saw an ad for that. I think I'd like to see that too. Having somebody tailgate you actually reduces your drag slightly, saving you gas. Well, that's great until they actually hit you. And I care about my relatively new car this time, so that would drive me crazy. Disc Blaster says, I was passed illegally by a cement truck. He's lucky I was on my phone and didn't notice fast enough, or I would have forced him to wreck or run me off the road. Okay,
I'm guessing your car, whatever you have versus cement truck wins.
Darren says, I bought a dash cam because of stupid people like that. That's a good call. And yeah. Ryan Pilcher talking to Tim. All right, guys, now we are actually going to call it.
Calling it.
Whether we end up talking or not, either way, big love and hug to
the whole Lizotte family.
To the Lizotte family. For Johnny V and myself, for all of our Smashies, we love you guys. Thank you for joining us. It's been an up and down roller coaster here tonight, but thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week for episode 405. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smash Box.